Day 3 of SI continues, and who is ready for Group D, which stands for delightfully deceiving? Because you know who's at the top? Heroic. And I don't think many people were anticipating that.
I really like the fact that Jackie opened this up by throwing shade. That's honestly really...
What? I'm not throwing shade.
I didn't know that you had it in you, honestly. That's
We're
great.
proud of Heroic. Numero uno right now.
That's juicy already.
Okay, Jacob. I was trying to be positive, but I guess I see it.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, well, anyway, M80 versus Heroic, our first Group D Stream A matchup. But real talk, Jesse, Heroic's going to be put to the test here by M80. Say no?
No, they will. They will.
I just tossed you in French.
Jackie, I'm from Alberta. I do not speak that language. I'm sorry.
Really? Not even a little bit?
Not even a little bit, Jackie.
Okay.
The guys on M80, at least one of them will. We got a French-Canadian there, Spirits, and
you speak Siege, so.
I do speak Siege, Jackie. It'll be an interesting game, I think, between these two squads. Certainly, I think M80 will be the favorites for a lot of people, but Heroic, they're no pushovers.
For sure. So M80 has only played one game. They got the W. Jacob, they've actually looked quite coordinated.
I'd say they're still on track to win their group. I know that there's a lot of people that disagree with the sentiment. I still think that they're, if not the best North American team here, then they're definitely on pace for it. Obviously, Sonics have come into the fray and they've done things with Citizen faster than we thought they were going to do things with Citizen, but they're still definitely on pace to do what we thought that they were going to do coming into this group. I'm honestly pretty happy with what I saw from that game against FaZe, and ultimately what I saw from Heroic beating Secret doesn't really still my confidence in M80 at all. So stop giving me that look.
Third or fourth, I'm saying for NA.
Third or fourth?
Third or fourth. Sonics are better than M80 right now. Auction look better than M80 right now. Dark Zero, we'll see. We'll see how that one ends up
Oxygen
going.
looked better than M80, yet they threw that game against BDS yesterday right at the very end.
It's BDS. No shade in that. This is the best team in the world that you're talking about right there, Jacob.
Fighting again. Okay, Jacob, let's pivot here. So M80 is in the middle of their group right now. Stats-wise, though, I want to pick your brain. How are they lining up against the other teams here at SI?
Just to clarify, they're only in the middle of their group because they've played one game and they got 3 points off of it, and both FaZe and Heroic have already played 2. But specifically for M80, when they came into today, they were 59% on attack, 65% on defense. By comparison to the rest of the averages present in this invitational, that is third place in both attack and defense coming into today.
That's
now,
impressive.
obviously, there were some teams that were above them in that respect, so since then, some of these may have changed. For example, like the Sonics themselves haven't played Oxygen, will have differed a little bit. M&M are now above them on both attack and defense, theoretically. They might even be #1, but this is still a really good start for M80 in just their first game when it was a little bit back and forth in that very first contest against FaZe. There were some questions to be ironed out, but they feel like coming right back after that boot camp that things are on track with where they were supposed to be. And this is great news considering we didn't know what Gomez's situation was going to look like initially. He was one who had to fly to the other side of the country. They had to fly from Brazil to New York to do some of this preparation, and they're looking fantastic so far.
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny it, right? M80 are looking good. Even if I don't think they're #1 in NA, they are looking good. They are. I think Diaz has got to be a player that you have to highlight from this squad. He's currently, I believe, 3rd highest rated coming into today out of all players at the event. You can't ignore a stat like that, as well as the attack and defensive stats that we just looked at earlier. And he's the top player from his region. Whether you consider him a North American player or a Brazilian player, he was #1 coming into today. So a lot of firepower here from M80. Diaz, one of the top support players undoubtedly in the world right now. They're a strong squad. You can't deny that.
No, we cannot deny that. And you know what? We cannot deny Heroic is at the top of Group D. But Jacob, I was chatting with you earlier, and it looks nice on paper, but you're like, I actually don't think they're off to a great start.
Yeah,
so
again,
explain.
It's fantastic on paper, but that's really the only place that it looks that great. The biggest thing to note is that they beat a Secret team that were chalked after map 1, went into map 2, and very nearly 7-0'd them. So
we've got some entry stats that I think should be paid attention to because this is by far Heroic's strong point. They have been a phenomenal entry team. However, when you take a look at their SI entries, right, whilst they're still good, and so were their stage 3s, right, this was a good stage 3 on the entry game for them as well, at the Six Invitational, they have played some less than ideal teams on entry. They played Dark Zero, who were unfortunately the 3rd lowest entry team coming into this event on the year, and they played Secret, who were the lowest entry team on the year. So there were some, there's some caveats to that. However, Now they play M80, and who might be the second lowest rated entry team in the year, Jacob?
There's no way it's M80.
M80 when you consider the whole year together. M80 only 49.1% on entry stats. Most teams at Six Invitational are above that 50%. So whilst Heroic may have gotten a bit of an easier group when it comes to this one particular stat, it's not like it's not going to keep continuing for them, at least in this game today.
Honestly, it gives a little bit of a vibe of SI21 back when it was Cloud9 doing phenomenal on entry, and that was the only real bright spot. They were great in the early game. They were good at establishing control in the mid game, and then when it came time to execute, that's where things fell off the train tracks. And as far as we've seen from Heroic, that seems to be the one area where if they do excel, they can push it a little way into a round, but then being able to finish, whether it's by getting a case down or by finding all the frags they need on attack, it doesn't always work out that way. So it's a good test against an M80 squad that themselves are also really, really good at holding you out of a bomb site for as long as possible and having one or two roamers to deter that execute for as long as the round requires.
One player I gotta highlight who I think has really been showing up for Heroic is their brand new player, Noodle. 12-6 on those entry stats, which is of course what I've been highlighting so far on this desk. 6-2 on attack when it comes to the entry. Really fantastic start up from him. Of course, a Polish kid, but he's coming from a team called Skullcracker down in Mexico. Bit of an interesting story. He's obviously played a lot in Tier 2 Europe. He's from EU, but he did go down, play a stage inside of Mexico. And back there, he was not really a big entry player. Like, he didn't have a ton of entry engagements in general. His team, obviously, a bit of a different caliber than the one that he's on right now. But he's come over to Heroic, and he's got the most opening kills on this squad, which is really, really impressive considering that Heroic themselves have the most opening picks of any team so far in SI.
Yeah, I think a big point is whenever you have a transfer window right before an event like this, the guys who come in for the first time onto a new team should be looked at about as much as they can be looked at because it's such a big deal to come into a world championship and make a roster change with somebody unproven. Noodle so far, even though we can't say he's been a huge standout on a team that's been doing fantastically, it's nice that we're able to look at him in a very small package and understand what his skill set is, and also understand that when Heroic are scouting for new talent, so far they seem like they found someone who will be able to take them to good things in the future, if not immediately. It's a really nice first impression for somebody like Noodle, and if he hasn't already been highlighted, let's make sure that we give it to him.
Okay, I am hearing that our map bands are ready. They're up on your screen right now, so taking in this information, Jesse, how do you feel?
Well, I feel pretty good for Heroic because we had a short chat with Mr. Officer just before this game, and he basically, one or the same, one or the other. He basically predicted this map ban phase perfectly, right? It seems like they are aware of it. He said we're going to play Club, Border, and then he said Chalet is a decider, but he said maybe Bank instead of Chalet, and that's exactly what happened. The final ban did go between those two maps. M80 decided to ban out Chalet instead of Bank, but all in all, I think that this is a pretty solid pool for them. M80, of course, picking Clubhouse. That's what Heroic ended up predicting. It's a map that certainly has been a bit of a struggle map for Heroic. They did have a couple of games back at BDS in the EUL finals where it was very close, and then they had lost to, or sorry, they played against Team Secret just yesterday, which was an 8-7 game. So all in all, I mean, that pick maybe makes a bit of sense for M80. Their pick as well, though, from the Heroic side, 5 wins and only 1 loss this year on Border. It's a very good one for them. So of course they're going to be quite comfortable heading into this one.
Yeah, that was a bit curious. Wondering whether we'd actually see Border picked because they played it against Dark Zero 2 days ago and beat them on it when it was DZ's map pick. I'm wondering how much of that is confidence that's spilling over from day 1 into day 3. But overall, it's going to turn into a frag fest. That's exactly how Border plays every time. And like Xset, back when they played it in the NAL, are just as scrappy as this current M80 team is, and they'll probably play it in the exact same way. Should be a good one.
Okay, so you guys, I've been slipping up.
Why?
Have you?
I have been, because I think for the last few series, I forgot to ask y'all predictions. So guess what? I made sure to leave ample time to hear what your predictions are for this match.
M80.
Okay.
Are you saying anything else besides that?
No.
I saved all this time for it.
No, it's okay.
Okay,
Well,
so now you're going to dance in front of the camera for us then?
No, I'm just going to say M80.
Okay,
and then
M80. What about you?
I'll put some time for you, Jackie. I think this will be a tough game to call. Like, I think M80 obviously had a great start to this SI, and I can't deny that. However, we still have to look back towards that stage 3 where they were having those problems, and I don't know if it was the cleanest game against FaZe Clan. So it's gonna be close. I'll pick Heroic just to make it a little interesting on the desk. Let's go for it, right? The EU boys coming through against M80. They can absolutely pull this one off.
If anybody from the North American League production pool is listening to this broadcast, is there any chance I can get a non-NA anti-duo heading into next year, please?
Non-NA. I'm so NA biased in every other respect, but you know what? Let's pick her up.
Y'all are always fighting.
Not biased enough, clearly.
I guess.
Let's get things rolling here. And this is not a fluke. Our casters are Fluke and Dev. Get it?
Oh, yeah.
Just you're so nice. Jacob does not entertain me at all.
Dev's casting?
Yeah.
Let's go, Dev.
Let's go, Dev.
Dev Mata.
Oh, man. We also have a Stream B pre-show, so don't go anywhere.
Bye, Jackie. Thank you. Thank you so much for the thread. Yes, Dev is casting. What an honor. I get to bring the Australian face of Rainbow Six Siege. It's a very big title I've just given you.
It's a very big face.
To help fill in, Hap is still ill. A face with a lovely moustache now. It's powerful.
Thank you. That's what I'm going for, actually. Now, I think in order to emulate Hap properly, I'll need to go like this, and I would try and put on a Dutch accent, but that would only offend people.
Oh, that wouldn't go well.
We have too many Dutch people that work with us that I don't want to put a foot wrong with them.
I don't know if our observer's Dutch. I think it might be Sayano instead. We have the NA observer. We have an NA team that had a day off yesterday. If you've somehow missed how this group has shaped up, well, NA has had a little bit of an ups and a downs with it. Dark Zero is very much the downside of that, but they did beat Heroic only just on day one.
Yeah, in fact, Heroic have still managed to achieve first place in the group. They got the consolation point from winning one map against DZ, and that does put them first place in the group. M80, on the other hand, have only played the one game. It did go to 2-1, and they'll be looking to take that mantle, potentially of first place. I always love it when we call M80 a North American team, because this is the most Brazilian team that doesn't live in Brazil I have ever seen.
Yeah, it's like the idea is like, Jacob, he loves his bias, he lives by it and waves the flag. Fair enough. You do what you do. It's a team that I think, it has aspects outside of North America. It has aspects above North America as well. And it's seeing if they can try and translate into the game. You have this very interesting thing with M80 is from all the rosters, they're still technically quite new. There's a lot of young faces, a lot of young gunners in this, and here's an obvious side-by-side that we just had before versus one of the oldest gunners the game at this tournament, technically, in Uno, that sort of has, nowadays, a collection of his own young gunners.
Yeah, well, absolutely. While there's no doubt that Uno is the most experienced player in the server going into this match, funnily enough, while M80 is a relatively new team, they haven't made a roster change in 11 months, ever since this Brazilian experiment began. But now they are going up against Heroic, fresh on the back of their own roster changes and looking to stay on top of the group.
There's something that I really enjoy about M80, and it's really hard to place because they're really hard to place. You have a huge amount of teams that have made big impacts on the majors throughout the year. They're a team that's shown up at a couple of majors throughout the year as well. You would have known them potentially by their previous name of XSET, people at home. They recently changed org. But they never really shout home about it,
This is the thing for me with M80. Back when they were XSET, their performance in Berlin stunned a lot of people. And I was thinking, if they're able to emulate that, if they're about to relive their former glory, then absolutely, they could end up first in Group D. But as it stands at the moment, Group D has been a bit of a bloodbath. You got Heroic and M80 joined by FaZe, DZ, and Team Secret, none of which are clear standouts at this point.
That's it. If M80 take the 4 points here, not including the result that's happening on the game on the opposite stream, then suddenly they leapfrog themselves up from third place to first place. There's only really been a little bit of clean points in this group. And even then, those two teams that got clear points lost. One of them being FaZe that lost against M80. It's that sort of story where everybody is still in the stage of kind of beating everybody. We're on the third day. We're getting deeper and deeper into the group. There's only really one team that's starting the day without any points in Secret. Maybe they finish the same way. Who knows?
We'll see, but as for jumping straight into Border here, the big thing for me seeing that operator ban phase fly by is the fact that Azami has actually managed to sneak through a very powerful operator on this defense, and in fact the last time Heroic played this map, it was just 2 days ago against DZ, and DZ themselves banned the Azami in that game. Leaving her in, I do wonder what Noodle's going to be going for. There's a lot of possible opportunities to use that operator, particularly when you're holding CC, holding break room. You can see the castle in tandem as well. This one right here, that keeper barrier is fantastic. Gives you so much mobility around CCTV. And we can see Noodle already beginning to make this area his domain.
Yeah, pressure underneath. Sloth is sort of trying to meet them at the turn of the face, but turns face and gets out of there before things come to a shove. The thing about Border, when you have Castle on, you're going to get extensions. You add the Azami onto that as well. As you said, unbanned, it turns it into a little bit more of a claustrophobic space, which when it's a map where you can sort of shoot from one top-end corner to the other through 3 layers of soft, it does change a couple of the approaches that can otherwise be pushed against you. The approaches that we really need to see locked in and solidified here by Heroic. M80, they're quick to get in underneath. They're trying to do some devastation. The one thing that I'm super curious about is that Ossa in the top left. Oh, and in the top left of your screen is where we just see Doom get deleted by Spirits.
Very strong start here from Spirits, who's had a phenomenal year, by the way. Of all the players at the tournament, he had the 4th highest rating throughout the 2022 season. And he's already kicked off this game with a bang. He's downstairs, and likely, I expect, going to be going some vertical nades with that sledge.
This is the plan. They're going to see if they can try and get that Talon shield just played right in front of the door and then get the kit planted behind it. It's a 2-step process. The first is clearing the space around the site itself. The second, as you said, the important part, the verticality. If that is in your favor, you might be able to do some damage here. And if it's not, well, they're going to have an easier time getting that kit planted. The C4 doesn't get the catch. The drone does, at least. Here comes the motion. There's the talent shield. There's the deploy. There's going for the plant, and Spirits with a hell of a take underneath. They pull themselves back. They set a second one so they don't get rotated on as they've got complete control. The E1D pops off. Noodle tries to, but Yoga has the lockdown on the far end, and they don't even need to get their kit down.
My oh my, what a banging start for M80. Beautiful way that they executed that Archives plant, using that Ossa as you mentioned. Always a risky play going for it. It doesn't take much. A C4, an impact grenade, and your strat can be in the bin. But it was executed to perfection. 2 opening picks for M80. No explosives to deny the Ossa's presence. And a nice execute forces Heroic to consider their options. They're not going to retry Armory. They're going downstairs to give Vents and Workshop a shot.
I mean, there really wasn't anything that was out of place there for M80. The control underneath, the setup of where they wanted to plant. At that point, Kino could have been doing his own thing. Irrelevant of what the rest of the gunners were doing, he was happy, singing a little song to himself, setting up his shields and chop, and ready to put that kit down and just sort of do his job. And then he looks up and it's like, oh, the round's over. Everybody's dead. And
I gotta say, Heroic don't have as much recent experience playing against Ossa on this map as perhaps they would like going against a team like M80. Against DZ, DZ banned out the operator, and the time before Heroic played Border, it was against Team Liquid at the Yonchiping Major, and they themselves banned out the Ossa. So clearly not an operator that they personally like to play against on the map. M80, though, won't be bringing it in the second rounds. Kino's instead gone for some hard breach here with the ace, and probably quite warranted, as you're likely to go for a top take. Joom's already kicked off the affairs with a bit of a peek outside of CCTV. He takes that and runs away with it.
Yeah, we're going to see a bit of that from Joom throughout this showdown. It caused a lot of problems in the first play day that they played, and he seems to try and keep that medal going. That's the thing about this Heroic roster. If you're unfamiliar with the sad news that came into this isn't the current roster. They've had to have last-minute fill-ins, and from that, you've just got to sort of buy an idea and build around it. Sloth was the player that stepped in to try and offer some support here, and they're a fantastic gunner, but still, you really need to keep that momentum alive in those players that are your traditional gunners here. Gomez on the back end in the role of the IQ, someone who has absolutely skyrocketed in pick rate throughout this tournament, whether it's just to counter a Solace. Not this time. She is obviously off the board.
Yeah, but Joom hasn't given up yet. Here at 90, just misses the shot, but peels back. Heroic know full well they have the advantage. Opening pick, they can fall back as well. Jesse on the desk mentioned a lot about how Heroic are the best team at the event at these opening engagements, and you can see the way that they're playing off of their advantage is perfect as well. Grizzly having this beautiful mirror window to face anyone here on the balcony. Actually going to try and C4, but oh, he does actually clear the aces. That's pretty nice.
In the meantime, Diaz is able to find Sloth on the back end. Gomez gets the head of Doom as well. All this pressure's coming across, and just look at that. An absolute explosion over the second story there. Sort of left a little bit in the wake in the dust of M80, just cleaning their way across. That C4 does get a clean catch onto Gomez. The Pulse trying to hunt through these players.
Oh, no way.
There's another, but Kino. Ooh, quick reactions. Dips tail, gets out of there, and makes sure he doesn't suffer the same fate from underneath. Noodle, though. How long has he gone unchecked? How long will he go unchecked? And how much will he hold his nerve?
E1D roars out. Diaz suspicious of a player in that office position. You can see M80 oh so cautious, and Kino's going to drop down. It's got to be on Uno to hold down the site, but Kino's going to take this 1v1.
Oh, he's getting the read. He pre-fires. He probably has no idea that the player is down at that point. And Noodle, an expansive fight to fight here as he's given a bit of the game away. He gets the down onto the first. He probably won't be able to make it above the planter in time to get the second, and it's a post-plant. They slip their way instantly out the room. One on the window, one on the door itself. It's a very tricky retake if they give you nothing. Sometimes you have to take huge risks. You might see if you can get the player back up in time. Drops through, goes for the call. That's it. See if you can try and force this into a 2 versus 2. Obviously, time is still that precious thing. Noodle does have a C4 into pocket, but look at the positions. I believe they've popped themselves up onto the school bus outside. They're going for a long-range angle, and they're making sure that it works. 14 seconds. None of it seen, and M80 get their second round.
Excellent start for M80. They played that post-plant position to a T. Not a lot that Heroic can do in that position, and really the round was won in that mid-round, dealing with that armory position and those vertical players, those roamers from Heroic. It looked like originally M80 was going to stall out, trying to clear that mirror from outside the balcony, but instead they rotated some players, they snuck in on the back. It was a perfect way to pick apart that defense.
All right, Heroic. Back to square one, back to the start of the sort of turn of the phase. And although there's a repick, I'm well aware. Let's see if they stick with this idea, potentially built behind a glass and some smokes. A few dangerous places you can set up that long-barreled bore rifle, and I'm curious to see if it affects the take that we've had from before. It started quite punchy underneath. They knew that that was the first bit of ground they wanted, and it's not always the first bit that teams put the pressure onto, because it sort of highlights what you want to do at the end of it, and it does make it a little bit more dangerous. There are some snappy rotates you can make on border. So, I'm curious to see. No, not even stuck. Swap that to the Iana. Why do I open my mouth?
I mean, because you're excited about a glass.
I am excited about
I'm excited as well. I'm right there with you.
Remember glass entry?
Take me back. You know, he's got the bearing 9. He's got nades these days.
Yeah, bring him in.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, M80 won't either be bringing that Ossa that they leveraged to success in the first round on this Armory side. Probably for the best, but it does make me curious as what strat they're going to go for. You can't really safely go for these Archives solo pushes without some kind of shield to try and force that plant down. So instead, I expect they're going to be looking to take a bit more map control. Whether they look to take CC or Office remains to be seen.
Well, it's starting over on the eastern front. The stairs will fall. There's a couple of pings on the player just on the other side of the triple wall, playing themselves tucked in towards the tuck, and Grizzly's actually going to reinforce it, make sure he doesn't get caught from underneath.
I think what was happening there was he was actually watching the angle on the jump in, but elsewhere, Gomez has actually opened up the exchange. Where on earth was Noodle? Is he on the rotate here and break? I don't see the little icon.
No, border doesn't have icons.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you have to sort of get used to it and on the top down, but hey, sometimes you learn the hard way, and there's another lesson taught it. Kino gets Sloth caught on 90. These open angles, we talked about it with the pickup and the reveal there of the head over the top. Doesn't get the second. Spirits on the long watch. The flashes pop around the corner. They're expecting 90. The C4 expect something else, but this is this map. It becomes so explosive. As soon as you break a single wall, suddenly you can see pretty much everything. Just catches the tail end of the player there. Uno isn't going to go for that fight. Instead, tears the head off of Spirits, offers some support towards the offer side, and as the pings come through, a minute 20, and Kino just as a plan.
Oh my god.
I am going all the way to side. No! Caught out at the last second, the sprint. Uno might be able to get the confirm, is maybe hoping to bait the play at this point, saying, well, maybe he'll drop down to get the revive. There is a bit of a shuffle. This is all taking the timer though, James.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
He's going to play it patiently. Here's the drone. Here's the revive. Surely not here for Uno. He's turned this 1v3 into a 1v1. Now Diaz has got to clutch up. 1E, 1D left available. Oh, a bit of a spray. Can't quite find the head. Uno still waits patiently. He has that diffuser. He doesn't have to move. As M80 rest their hopes on Diaz.
It's so close. The scratch is just wailing against the wall, but it's Diaz. At the start of the day, the second best rated player in the whole tournament. He might be, based on Shaiko's performance, the first. I'm not sure if he went down in the rankings. However, he seems dedicated to trying to pull himself back up off of his own laurels. Heroic take a timeout. Let's see what they're saying.
I can confirm, Emmy, at the moment, Diaz is the highest rated player in the tournament, and with clutches like that, you can see why. It might not have been a multi-kill, but it was important nonetheless.
I don't know if we can get just the English mic on Heroic. Do you speak Portuguese?
Unfortunately, I missed that day in high school.
It's a very cool camera.
Way too much respect. Let's fucking go, boys.
You're giving them way too much respect, he says.
Bring it back now.
Bring it back now for Heroic.
Just keep doing it all round.
I mean, that's what you have to do sometimes. Sometimes you just got to sort of get in the heads, especially showing up to a tournament not with your full roster, saying, don't pay people respect. Play your game. Get into that mindset of, you know, we can outgun. It's one of the quotes of the reason Heroic did so well yesterday was they just had a moment where they went, we're better gunners than them. Let's get a gunning. You ever have that?
Yeah, well,
Gunning time?
me personally, I'm not much of a gunner myself,
okay.
but I'd like to live vicariously.
Is Mandy the gunner of the stack from
Let's
APAC
just,
South?
sure, let's just say that.
Oh no!
For diplomatic reasons, I shall not comment.
Okay. Careful, she might be observing this game. She keeps finding her way back into the observatory. And being like, I observed a game! I'm like, stop it!
Observer at heart forever.
Yeah.
But Heroic are hoping to do more than just watch as M80 roll over them. These attacks have been somewhat close, but that doesn't disregard the fact that the scoreline is pretty decisive. M80 up 3-0. Heroic have a lot of work to do. Of course, they picked this map. They damn well sure are hoping for a better result than what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's your map you're leading in. Now, Border does play itself well to attackers, generally. You have a lot to work with on your defense here. Valkyrie is a pretty common removal. Solus has seen good showing, especially from underneath. With all that soft, people planting a diffuser is just easy pickings for a Solus that's in a good position. However, as we pointed out, the castle and the Azami being on the board especially, it just shows so much growth. I want to see a lack of respect. I want to see Mr. Officer's word met. I want to see Doom and Noodle starting to do Doom and Noodle things.
I mean, it's funny they say that because at the same time, Heroic do have a fairly utility-heavy lineup, a fairly anchor-heavy lineup. You're going to be playing off your mirror winners. You're going to be playing off your evil eyes on the Maestro. That's just the nature of the lineup there, bro. At the moment, it is a bit of a mini-game here of wall denial on the detention walls. And as we can see, there's actually no wall denial in the defensive lineup whatsoever. Perhaps the impact grenades were the risk, but hang on a second. Is this a bit of a rush?
No, I don't know, really. It's the clone came in first. No one quite moved in behind it. There was a second there where I thought they might just try and push on. As soon as they got the read, it's only really the Maestro, but it's only really the Maestro, James. They've got to get themselves a little bit more structured around the back end. You know, you can see the calls come together. Noodle's going for a bit of a long walk around to some other support. Doom's watching above. Grizzly, he's rotating himself back towards the verticality. There are angles. You hope that they've got one open above the window. You hope that you've got one open above the door as well. So as soon as they start trying to break out of detention, there it is. I mean, it's open, but a little bit later on, the work is being done. But I think M80 might just try and see if they can eke a little push past.
That's risky. It's very risky to do so. There is so much vertical lines. There's so much retake potential on this bomb site. So much plant denial potential. Nades are going out, and you can see M80 are going in. But are they going to be able to win these vertical engagements? Kino takes a bit of damage. He's the man with the diffuser. He's got to stay alive. Uno's droned out above, worried about pressure on his windows, but at the moment, he's reasonably safe. There is a player on that balcony. Doom, is he going to go for the run out? Uno needs support now.
They've been able to slip a little bit into the site itself. They move. Grizzly does get Spirits, but on the back end, Gomez and Kino are able to get one of their own. There's a slow rotate coming just on the opposite end of Beepers. They're seeing if they can just make things uncomfortable. Kino's going to see if he can stick the kid. In the meantime, the call needs to come, but it's happening. The cover comes as well. There's the big Alder going. Noodle across the board gets 1.5, and the down is going to make things very difficult. Yoga all that's left. They've pulled themselves back 20 seconds, 3 players, and once again, look at this, Heroic. They have just separated like the sea and said, all we see is our first round.
Don't treat him with respect, he said, and Heroic absolutely did not. A great round to finally find one on the board for the Europeans. They used that vertical game to its fullest extent. They weren't afraid to try and play for that retake.
I don't know if that was... Did they say NJR?
That's what I heard. I think wrong team.
Yeah. Oh, they're not in this game. What is in this game now? It's finally 2 teams, technically, on the board. There's a fun way of putting it. They got their first round. Can they do it on, I'm going to say, sites that are a little bit more familiar to tension?
Yeah, well, how about this? It took going to the least favored bomb site on the map to actually win a round.
Yeah, exactly.
But to be fair, like, M80 are playing a dangerous game, going for a bit of a rush like that. I really feel like M80 could have managed to clear CCTV. Yeah, you have some pretty powerful ops on the board to try and hold that position, but I think on a side like that, in a situation like that, you're probably a better bet trying to dismantle the Heroic push rather than going for something a little bit, what I would say, riskier in going for that semi-rush.
It was kind of strange as well. They had the single player watching above. They sort of forced a bit of motion. In that gunfight, they slipped their way into the site. And then they spent about 20 seconds deliberating whether they should go for the plant or not. They were in a position, they tucked themselves in, they were kind of sure. I think if they'd have tried to stick the plant at that point, it would have gone off successfully. Whether they would have been able to escape and win the round, an entirely different tale. However, it almost seemed like a second of not doubting themselves, but are we sure this is the right place? That allowed Noodle to get into the position to get the double on the swing, and then from then on, Heroic got the rest of the round. Here, though, it's off the backboard and into a new lesson. A bit of pressure once again onto Jumi. Remember, he got the first from this sort of position and the pressure he put on before, but since then, it was a pretty good M80 bite back.
Couple of pre-fires, exchanging bullets. On this break balcony, Joom's been droned, but his position was always known. He's playing the bookshelf position now, and Gomez is on the other side. This Commando packs a punch these days, especially if you chuck on that extended barrel. It's a 2-shot kill in a lot of scenarios. Gomez is going in, but he hasn't checked the bookshelf position. Is he going to assume that Joom has cleared on out? Gomez has snuck his way in through 90. Joom knows about it, but Gomez finds one not before the trade can come through.
Oh, that was such a little move, and there's the power of that commando, and there's the power of a grenade. Noodle removed by it, over the top. Yoga, it's been a consistency for M80 to be good with those grenades. This hasn't, though. The trades coming back very quick from Heroic. Sometimes that game has been a little bit lackluster throughout this series, and maybe that's what Mr. Officer was sort of ailing towards. There's a bit of respect. Broken all the way across the top. The kit is off in Narnia on the other side of the map itself, so Diaz is just trying to warn the fight there. A great take, but Spirits, where's the push? Where's the pressure? Past the mirror window, swung and dropped before you even got there. Look at this. The rotation up to the top. Uno does some business, puts us into a 1 versus 1.
Yeah, and there's a minute to go. So
time.
Plenty of time for Diaz to work with here. We've seen him win these ones before. It was just 2 rounds ago that he managed to clutch out that 1 versus 1. Let's see if he can do it again. Site is Vents and Workshop downstairs. Uno has the cardiac sensor and also still has a C4 in pocket. Whereas Diaz has just used his last E1D from Lion. Uno's retaken vertical map here. This is going to be so good. It means that he can deny through the floor from wherever the plant goes down. He almost managed to get the kill. Reveals that he is the pulse and that he is above. And now Diaz has to decide what he's going to do. Going to go for the plant again. I expect Uno should be able to get to deny it. Opens up the hole in the floor using the C4, and now Diaz has a very tough decision to make.
Oh, he's gone close to the hatch. He's going to go for the pre-fire again. Diaz's health fickle and flitters away. He's going to see if he can get one last roll. He goes against it. He knows he's out of time.
Oh, no!
No, Uno! Oh, he almost lost that. The call came. I'm up the stairs. He suddenly came back down. And that's a little bit of squeaky bum time.
Oh, man. Oh, Emmy, hold me back. What is this game happening? Uno giving us a heart attack. Diaz did think for a second to go up the stairs, and he almost baited out Uno, but Heroic, regardless of how tight that round may have been, it's a second one on the board.
I mean, if you can piece anything together there, the call was, go up, you got to find the fight. I'm wondering if the call came back out. I don't know what intel M80 had of dropping the hatch. He went straight for it. Maybe he just saw him and got lucky. Uno obviously had the call, he's coming up the stairs. And it's just one of those siege timing things.
I think it's one of those second-guessing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, Diaz is sitting there thinking, I want to plant, but how am I going to plant when there's a pulse above who can just floor bang me? And, you know, then, okay, I got to go for the fight. Starts walking up the stairs. No, that's silly. I've got 3 seconds. I better go back to site. Oh, hang on. There's a guy dropping down the hatch.
What a gift. Oh, we're out of time. And it's like that thing. It can be so frustrating, but that's the nature of the beast. You have to give credit to Uno, and that's that thing about experience of getting to the position he was at, making sure that he was above. He knew the utility he has in his pockets. He knew where he was at his most powerful, and he made sure he could be an impact with it. That comes with playing this game for a long, long time.
Yeah, M80 actually haven't played this map in a long, long time. Last time they played it was back in October against Astralis in the NAL. And if we look in all-time history, M80, back when they were XSET as well, actually not too fly on this map. They got a negative win rate on both attack and defense. Especially when you've got to deal with things like these mirror windows, it's very hard to do so. Doom's actually going to abandon that mirror window. Try and hold on for a pick, looking for the jump in on the CC window. He'll fall back. This is, of course, Tellers, so this is just an extended roam. He can afford to forfeit some of this map control and peel back the defense.
That's entirely it. He doesn't want to get caught out on the motion, and as we said many, 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 many times with the architects that they have some safety they otherwise wouldn't get. They can play a little bit more dedicated further away and then do this. Pull back, peel back, and try and put the cost down on what then gets brought towards them. Hey, look, another mirror window. Hey, look, another mirror. They're going to see if they can try and reposition. Hope they're getting a little bit too full of bravado, but it hasn't really seemed like M80 are that team. They've made sure that everything is checked and double-checked. They're going for these cautious pushes, and sometimes it's cost them a little bit later on by the heroic plays of Heroic, but here I feel like it's something that's not going to quite get the game. It's just how much of the hold on the top floor do M80 want to hit their head against?
Well, that's the thing we saw in that customs and supply attack, that M80 are not afraid to just hit site and not try and take map control, but the polar opposite's happening here. This is a very slow and thorough take, now opening up these fountain walls. Almost vulnerable to a C4 there. What's going on? Doom, oh, his rotation is cut off. Perfect from Kino. Those Hibana pellets coming in handy, opening up that line of sight, flushing the player into his waiting arms.
Oh, it was such a clean take as well. They had the Ash watching on the far end, and now they're going to see if they can try and get the next clean take on this. Well, they should be able to piece this up. The drone's given the active call, and that's a great dancing player. There was only really death there, and Gomez gets one more as well. Vertical is theirs. Grizzly cannot quite find a snap back to the head of the players above. They're looking for something just to make things a bit dangerous, but look at the open space he's drifted into. That's so dangerous. Grizzly just deep dives to get themselves set up. They have the rotate on the back end, but Gomez is that rotate too. Grizzly gets one. It is down to Noodle, the newest player, to try and ace out and see if he can pull this round and an even half. The kit is being comfortably planted on the far end. There's enough time to pick it up and change, and this gun, well, it's got a little bit of twist in the right hands, but only about 2 clips left, so he's got to be a bit delicate with the firefight. He's taking that bullet count just slower and slower. Spirits does not.
M80 feeling fired up after that one, winning the first half on their opponent's map pick. Heroic no doubt feeling a bit dejected. They'd hope Border would go a little bit better for them on the defense. They've already used their tactical timeout, mind you. And yet M80 have won that first half. Now they move on to the defense. Now, in theory, attack should be favored on Border in pretty much every region in the world. Heroic actually have a positive defense win rate as well at 59%. However, of course, that's versing all kinds of teams, including Dark Zero, Sandbox, Team Liquid, 10-Star in the Northern Premier League, apparently. That was cool.
I like how you're saying that like you have no idea what that is.
Huh?
You're saying that how you have no idea what that is.
I've literally never heard of the Northern Premier League before.
Wow.
I'm joking.
Fresh is crying somewhere.
He's always crying.
Yeah, that's very true. What I love there from M80, and I sort of said it at the beginning in the talk of the mirror window and the drones coming through, is they do it off the back of great teamwork. They're positioning the drones, the intel, the way they're shaping themselves up for the take. I mean, look at the executes on the player. They knew where the mirror window was. They knew where the mirror was. The first step was putting the pressure onto the back end of Fountain with a couple of them there to offer the support and make sure that got off. At the same time, they had the Ashe on the far end, and I think one more player inside Armory themselves ready to double swing if they tried to get out. Every single route out of there was locked. They either had to try and choose to push back and be stuck inside the site or get killed. And exactly the same thing happened towards the end as well. Grizzly went for the rotate. They suddenly had the player watching from the back end of construction. It's just really good, balanced fighting here from M80, and we'll see if on their defense they can try and keep that pressure up against Heroic.
Well, for Heroic, Sloth in particular, he's found a really early position in the building, just 30 seconds, and he's already on this lurk here in Customs. Now he's going 0-6 at the minute. He's struggled to find an opening, but in this lurking position, he's highly likely to catch off any player that decides to rotate. For example, if Yogg feels a little bit too much pressure here in CC, he might drop the hatch. And the thing is here, it's a tough decision for Sloth. Does he try and go for one of these vertical nades to flush out this position? Or does that in turn reveal his position?
That's 3 drones and almost a firefight with 2 different people here for Yogg.
Oh my god, stop droning them, just shoot him!
That is a lot, and they've only got 3 left. There's a minute 50 to go in the round itself. A huge amount of cost has just come out of that single position, and Yogg has gone uncontested on the back of it. More impact, more explosion, more push. And what do Heroic really have to show for it?
Nothing, because Sloth wasn't watching the rotate out. He was instead going for vertical nades, and so Yogg is allowed to escape. Like you said, only 3 drones left remaining for Heroic, and not much map control. You can see break room, CCTV, Customs downstairs, but that's just about it. There's still all this armory hold, and that's not even the site. It's Customs. It's rather Vincent Workshop. Finally a pick. Finally Heroic have something to write home about.
Yeah, they finally got the player up here. Okay, maybe the utility was worth it, but here's the next fight about to pop over the top. Kino almost led into the one with Sloth. Does in the end. They seem to have a bit of sharpness about it. Who's going to be the one that gets the final shot? Sloth wants to try and double down to find his first here, but Kino's having none of it. They know that they can still pull back to the site. They know that they don't have to play their life in that situation. Instead, he's going to see if he can try and get a sneaky catch on the player that enters just there. A lot of damage to Doom. Not quite the full bite, but Spirit says the last bit of deliciousness, and they're removed from the board itself. A 4 versus 4, 40 seconds, and they still have vertical control. They still have...
Oh, Sloth.
And they're locked inside, and there's Sloth.
No way, man.
Knocked out. And there's suddenly just Heroic trying to scramble for something.
Yeah, that they are. Uno, fortunately, is able to find Gomez 3v3, but there's just 15 seconds left, and I realistically don't see a way for them to get in this. Perhaps Uno can scrape together a couple of headshots. One more, why not? Put that diffuser down, son. Diaz has got a clutch once again. He might! Diffuser cold on the ground. Heroic, you can't be doing it like that.
That was Uno and the world on his back.
You went from 0-19 to fucking 9-5, Uno. You were so good. Keep it up, buddy. Let's go. Keep it up.
Right there, bro. They're not there.
Keep it up.
Kino was shouting the wrong way.
Shouting the right things, though, I tell you what.
Oh, that is devastating. I mean, M80 were in the right place at the right time and had the right C4, but Uno grabbed that round with 15 seconds left, shoved it on his back and said, this isn't over yet. And Heroic just weren't up to that speed, and it's synonymous with how that round felt. There's such a lack of coordination. Okay, I know it's a big asterisk. This isn't their roster. Last minute changes. They've come in to try and do the best that they can. It's so far from easy to go up against a team like M80, which has not had a change in a long time and has had a great year. But It's that little bit of just not having that trade game set up, that cover.
Yeah, man, it's the tiny things that are falling apart for Heroic are proving so very costly. You can't afford to lose a 3v1 like that when your two players are caught off so far away, so unable, so helpless. Heroic now, they get on their bike and start taking the fight to M80 because as it stands, they're losing their map pick and it's not looking to get better anytime soon.
Okay, let's brush that one off, but I'm not going to say it's easy. Obviously, Heroic a long time ago used their attack timeout. At this point, they can only try and play the game ahead of them. It's the first round. It's the first attack that's sort of come together, and the pressure comes instantly back towards them. But look at this. 2 Heroic players, 3 Heroic players already dead. A 4 versus 2 in the opening minute. Okay, M80 have suffered scraps and scrapes across the board, but it's so early, they hadn't even begun to look at the wallpaper in the building before they were removed and sent backpacking.
Well, time to bait. Oh no, he didn't even land the Gon 6 shot onto the Azami keeper barrier. Well, at least he might get some cameras here. Dead player running out from East Stairs. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of cameras that are really that valuable on border.
No.
So he's not going to get a lot of information from that. Let's see if Uno can string together a couple of nice headshots like he did last round. This could become possible, but Grizzly's going to have to help him out. Oh, mirror window facing him. The call out is going to be that Grizzly's going towards office and the entire team's going to know about it. Maybe Uno's going to try and shoot that mirror window open from below.
Yeah, that's very clever. A bit of coordination, force them off, and maybe even get the fight with the player, but definitely gets the mirror window and makes it impossible to hold that and just lock the push. Grizzly, they're going to see if they can try and force the fight, but hey, who's that? Azami. Hey, who's that? Azami. And it turns what was an awkward firefight into a closed door. 50 seconds-ish left. And as I said before, most of them died before anything had even begun to put pressure onto the site itself. They have some utility, but they have so much left to do ahead of them. A slow sneak round on the back. Barely anything they can see at this point. Well, there's a fight that goes away from them. Grizzly caught out by Spirits, and Yoga finds one on the stairs. Map point.
Yeah, it's turned out to be quite a dominant one for M80 as they get fired up. Heroic in contrast, trying to reconcile their position. 6-2 deficit.
Our aggression is not working now, so shit's not working, so we have to just go standards now. Okay, let's try that. Slow and steady.
Slow and steady, hey?
I mean, that's the conversation, isn't it? I'm still trying to piece together if that was our game. But, yeah, they've got to see if they can try and do something. They've got to see if they can try and offer something extra, because at this point, it has been the M80 show. It was expected to be a tough game from this group. Let's be honest, this group was one of the hardest ones to call who was going to be stepping up. FaZe you expected to be towards the top. They had a rocky start and then pulled themselves back. But M80 were, for a lot of people, the second on the money. They're, as I said, a good team that's had a good year of Siege. A consistent year of Siege is one of those impossible bingo things to tick off. You have seen it with every major winner. One of them is in this group. You have seen it with the previous SI finalists. And out of all of them, sure, they haven't won anything. Sure, it's generally been quarters or groups that they've been able to get to. But still, they've been able to get there. Not many people have that.
And M80, to be honest, struggled to upkeep their the standard that they had established for themselves with their Berlin performance. They really struggled to convert into stage 3. They got picked up by M80, and going into SI, on the one hand, you're thinking, well, if they live up to their Berlin performance, they're probably going to top their group. But if they don't, there's a full chance that they could be first rounded. Now, fortunately, we're starting to see some of the M80 that perhaps we've seen in the past, and that includes Diaz spawn picking June and trading himself out directly. Heroic, fortunately, might finally have some wind beneath them as they finally taken a man advantage here.
I mean, it's two names that have taken themselves off the board here. Joom, who's been able to have some big performances, taking out Diaz, who has maybe the best performance of anyone out of the whole tournament so far, and he doesn't seem like he wants to slow down just yet, sitting on the 8-3, but there's still work to be done here, and we might still get a little bit more bite out of this. They have the body advantage. It's not the most common thing that you've been able to give towards Heroic at this point, and they have it without it having to come off the heroics of a single player. They're going for a steadier push. We heard it from the comms. Slow steadier frost mats.
What kind of silver frost mat is that? It's genius, and it works wonders. That said, Heroic managed to scrape back. One pick, one trade, 3-2 in the advantage, and look at that, no fear. Noodle marches forward, taking this map control. Drone ahead of him. They've got to use their numbers to their advantage now. Kino and Gomez to try and clutch up on match point.
Sloth got his first kill of the series off of the back of that as well. It's about time. He almost has Diaz's stats, but in a much sadder order, unfortunately. Let's see if he can try and push that a bit further on. 50 seconds. 2 remaining M80 players stacked up and keeping a bit mobile around the site itself. The pocket barbed wire, I feel like we might not get the use of that. But what we are getting use of is the verticality. Force a bit of space. 40 seconds, the longer that ticks on, obviously makes things riskier. They do not have the hard breach left to be able to get the hatch open. So what they're going to have to do is just blind charge this by the end. It's awkward to break your way into the site, and you have to do it this way. Via the workshop, via those soft bathroom walls, and via Gomez gets one, gets traded. 20 seconds, Kino. He's in the clutch position here. He's able to do a lot of damage to the first, but they're now tucked behind the shield. He's going close in for the rotate. Grizzly's going for the plant. They pull off. They're so close to the fight. The shotgun round on the other end. The ping's on the player. He's popped up looking for the cover. He needs them. There's Noodle though. And it was a dangerous jiggle.
And it was Heroic lucky to have managed to pull that across the line. It looked very scary there for a moment, but a few smiles, a few laughs. A chance to get back in the game.
Yeah. Rogue came down from fucking 0-5 to win 7-5. One round at a time. We just need to work together. Need to work together.
I love this. Couldn't have said it better myself. One round at a time, work together. And Heroic did indeed that round. They might have had a few hiccups, but when it came down to it, they were ready to just execute on the same thing. You know, people say it's far better to execute a bad plan with good teamwork than to have a good plan and no teamwork whatsoever. It's the nature of Siege. You can have the best strat in the book, but what trumps all of that is teamwork and brilliance.
I like that little bit of camaraderie. Rogue came back from 0-5. Koi, if you're unfamiliar, they recently made a partnership. Koi did. You know, anything is possible. It's the beauty of this game is that at the start of a round, nothing else is weighed into it other than a fresh round.
That's it.
You have all the players, all the pockets. There's no economy, no costing things, no other things. Just Siege, baby.
The real economy of Siege is 2 things, in my opinion. One, information.
Yep.
You reveal information about your strategies and how you're going to play around when you play it, and then the next round, the enemy team will have a better idea of how you played. So you really need to use that to your advantage to be able to predict and then bring something different or play differently. The other economy is mentality, and we're starting to see Heroic put a little bit more in the bank. They're supporting each other, they're believing in each other.
Well, the first economy was one that wasn't used very well before by Heroic. We talked about how many drones were at the cost of the far end this time. Look how many they have. Wow! They've been able to hold on to their intel. Their slower and steadier approach is definitely netting them more of a result. There's the first kill, as we saw. Diaz gone, Kino as well just before that. And suddenly, once again, Heroic, they have a man advantage. And they have it without the trades coming directly to them. And very early on, it is almost an entirely different face team from the first attack from them we saw.
You know what, this is perfect as well, Emmy, because now Heroic just need to simplify. M80 is going to be making plays to try and equalize, as we saw from Gomez, and as long as Heroic do their due diligence, you can play it slow, you've got plenty of time. Just trade out any engagement you might make, mitigate the risks, and that's the way that Heroic can secure this round. And once again, take it 1 round at a time. Oh, beautiful nade! Where on earth did that come from? Spirits 1v5. He can dream it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh dear, the terrifying sounds of the world collapsing around you, and a flawless for Heroic.
You injured him. I don't know who injured the others.
I needed down middle.
you probably went to
Yeah, from office. I fucking.
I don't know who downed the Oryx. Some random grenade down
It
there.
was sloth. I needed down metal. It's great. But that's the thing is, I know you talked about it at the start, and I'm so happy that it was painted perfectly at the end there. Information. People, if you're watching this and you want to start improving at Siege, the first golden lesson, once taught with an iron fist by the man, the myth, Fabian, the two-time, the greatest of all time, in his own words, is drones are the most important bit of utility. Drones are the driving force. They had 9 at the end of the round there versus 2 the last time they attacked that place. Phenomenal. Look at the results.
do this. But we can have to do round by round. And every fragger now. Come on, for fuck's sake! Bubble a little bit in your blood now. Come on, find that fucking bubble. Let's give everything, boys. Everything the next 2 rounds. Let's fucking go.
Chris. Let's go.
Looks like they've got some wood, chucked it in the burner, and they've turned on the heat. It's gonna boil their blood, Mr. Officer.
I mean, he's like the most positive guy.
Yeah, I love it.
He's such a dad.
I was gonna say
he is a dad.
He's like a soccer dad.
Yeah, he's great. He's really the coach. Like, if there was a referee in the same sort of way that you would in German soccer, you'd feel like he'd be like, come on, like all of this stuff. But he really is an energy in and amongst himself.
Well, that's exactly what Heroic need right now. It's not like they're playing strategically in significant error. All game, it's been about teamwork. It's been about being synced. It's been about being fired up. It's been about confidence. You talk about Sloth, right? He was 0-8 at one point. I don't know about you, but me playing Siege, there is no worse feeling than going like most of the way through a match and being like, hang on a second, I have done nothing for my team. I haven't even found a single kill yet. Every gunfight, there's nothing I can do. And as soon as you dispel that by nading down metal and randomly killing an Oryx,
I needed that metal.
I knew you killed him.
I needed that metal.
That brings it back. It brings it back, and that's what Heroic are doing. They're bringing it back.
Can they do the last 2 rounds? The first half at the tack timeout from Heroic, and after that, they're able to get 2 rounds. They're only 2 up until very recently, and M80 have now taken theirs before they find themselves eking closer and closer to map point. 2 in a row is enough for them. They're back here. One of the sites that obviously they've found some success on before. Doom, very quick, let in. And that is a sharpness by the players who have come in with a new face of dedication.
I love that for Sloth. Opening up with the sledgehammer, and Doom is the gun to march on forward. Heroic, they are looking swell. They found their mojo, and they're ready to party. Opening pick, Kino's gone down, but now it's about taking more map control. M80 are peeling back, they're playing together, they're not looking to take ones. But they've still got a lot of map control in their favor, this mirror window in CCTV. Worried about losing the control, but Heroic have slowed it down.
That's it, back to the drone game, back to seeing if they can try and piece some of these puzzles together. As you said, that mirror window. And Sloth, he had a very slow start to the game, but if his impact comes now, well, that's the biggest impact he can have, hoping they lean back into this engagement. They don't even see it. Grizzly on the back end, 5 versus 2. Out of nowhere, Diaz steps in, gets one back. It's quite big that he's still alive because over the past couple of rounds, he has been the first body pretty much both times. Here's the shutdown. The fight to Yoga on the back end gives a bit of the game away of the position, and Noodle's just going to hold off and wait for the reinforcements to arrive. There they are. There's the scrappiness of the fight,
no.
It's down to a super shorty, and now it's down to just Diaz. Looks for an engagement. They're all around you. They're all around you. A scrappy one over the door. They're going to stick the kid in the meantime, but Heroic. You compare that round to the one where Uno almost clutched, and this is 2 entirely different teams.
Keep up the confidence, guys. Keep up the fucking...
Absolutely, it's confidence, and Heroic have found it.
That's a play, Chan.
M80 now, a shell of their former selves. Body language not looking good for them. A flick through the strat book, is that really going to help you out at this juncture, mate? Heroic have patience, and M80, they've got ants in their pants. They kept on moving. They kept looking to re-aggress. Heroic, really, the majority of what they did that round was one nice little play in through Passport to find the opener, and then they sat, they waited patiently, they droned out positions, and M80 kept giving them opportunities to further their man advantage. M80 need to read into this. They need to realize that if they start playing it back to basics, Heroic aren't going to have these advantages to convert. And now M80 have one final chance to close out this map in regulation. Otherwise, if Heroic can push OT, there's no question they will have that momentum on their side.
I mean, Koi might have brought it back from 0 to 5. Heroic have almost brought it back from 2 to 6. There is huge jumps here. There's so much pressure, and how they've readapted, especially without their own team talk during that duration, obviously apart from the one that was called halfway through this rise and resurgence back into the game by their opponents. It could culminate here in at least overtime, maybe something more. And it's their map. They're just trying to make sure that if it goes away from them, it's not a fight. Or it is, even. The other way around. It wasn't a fight. It was a slaughter.
Oh, this has been a brawl in this game, that's for sure. M80 started exceptionally well, but they struggle to follow through here. Gomez looking to make an aggressive play. He's prepped this window here on AC. He almost times it perfectly, but he doesn't quite have the conviction to commit to the fight.
It was cautious. The drone rolls through a second later. There's a bit of motion coming behind them as well. The C4 to the window, but they're not quite there. They're stacked up. And again, you can see there's a little bit of edginess in the play. There's a rotation underneath, though. They're offering some support to that player. They're thinking about giving themselves the lead in via the open hole onto the window itself, but the flashes are coming flat. The pressure's coming flat too. Noodle, with a little bit of energy about him, is looking for the long-range fight with the Ash. There's now 2 players stacked up underneath, and they're just trying to buy themselves some time. And this, the openness to drop down the hatch if they need to, the break and the rotation. If this goes unchecked, this can be huge. They're up. They just missed the back. They've got to time it. They almost get the snap, but they cannot quite get the lockdown. Noodle gets locked a little bit out. Kino gets one. Spirits does go down in and amongst the chaos. Some pressure onto the back end of the hatch itself. And, well, with them down on the far end, they should be able to capitalize, but they do not want to throw themselves entirely into it.
Oh, this is a blitz, Emmy. This is back and forth. It's a messy take upstairs here. Heroic do manage to get that control. M80 fell back, losing just the one player. But of course, it's even now, the scoreline. Grizzlies Twitch drones have done good work clearing that mirror window in Fountain already, and now it's time for Sloth to bring out the hammer. It's a thing we're all fighting for here at the Six Invitational. And Sloth is going to be making his best use of it, getting this vertical game begun. And M80 have completely evacuated the majority of Workshop and the site. They're spread out there looking to play retake, and that means Heroic have got to get a wriggle on.
That's it. That's the important part right now. We've not really seen this from M80 before, the retake strategy. They've pulled themselves further and further away. There's a little bit of presence still on the side, and they just see the side. But look at the timer, James. They got to get a bit of a shift on. 20 seconds passes over. They're going to have to go for a bit of a hot drop here and hope they can aggress their way right through the site to get that kit planted down. But last second plants have not worked for them before. Will they work this time? Uno, he's tucked on the shoulder and the shiver. The C4 doesn't quite get it. There's a rotation and a spray through. Noodle gets one. The kit goes down. Grizzly has the cover, and Heroic explode over the second story. Kino, he finds himself alone and gets the head off of at least the planter, but the verticality is gone. The stretch into Workshop looks a million miles. He's gonna hold, bait and hope, but all they get is an overtime.
And a well-deserved one at that for Heroic.
Good problem solving. This is what we need, exactly this.
Fucking almost!
The difference between Uno and Mr. Officer. Good problem solving. This is what we need.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's exactly what Heroic have needed. They're firing up. They're firing on all cylinders. And they've just won 4 rounds straight on their attack, Emmy. Pushing overtime now. They will continue their attack. Can they make it 5?
I mean, if they do, that is a heck of a statement here over the other side. It's not just that it was only really, 4 rounds of success for any defense total throughout this whole map. It's just when they've come and how much of it has been in Heroic's favor. As we said there, M80, they went for a retake idea, but I just cannot get over how much Heroic have changed throughout this game. It is unbelievable that this roster went from the mistakes that we saw to where they're at. And I don't even think M80 believe it either.
And what a testament to Uno's leadership, and that of Mr. Officer, of course, as well. Uno being the most experienced player in the server, having played on G2 near their peak. He's really bringing a level of maturity into this roster that I don't think he's ever really had to have in the past. No, Uno started out and he was a nutty fragger. That was when he got picked up by Ants, when he got picked up by G2. That was his role. He was the young gunner. And now he's having to be the big brother of the group. He's going to have to, in these dire moments, get everyone fired up. And that's exactly what's happened here. Mr. Officer and Uno's leadership have gotten Heroic back into the game.
The Twitch to play against these mirror windows. They're going for the different alternate, and that's both of them. A great adaptation that's come through there from Grizzly, and they're causing problems. The breach will come through. They will catch the second, but the angle is dangerous enough. Oh no, my mirror window's open. Gomez sees, and at this point, it's going to become much trickier to play against. They have eyes and angles. That one's open too, mate. They've already been and driven by both of these, so where do you sit, where do you stand, and where do you suddenly find yourself trying to hold on to any space? It does mean you got to be cautious on your approach. They work both ways. They can get the depth of the angle if they want it as well, but here they're going for this. The split push over the top, the pressure, the rotation. There's a player there on the stairs. Sloth seems to have a bit of an idea. He's sort of clearing it step by step. The spray comes, a bit of damage, but it's actually Noodle that suffers first against Gomez.
Who's still holding on here in Armory. Sloth about to greet him. A nade could well mean the death. The Spirit's playing on this keeper barrier, but it's Joom to backstab from outside Armory. And that's the cue for Gomez to peace out. 4v4 now. Heroic have top floor map control, and Sloth is still alive. He can get to work on this vertical game as soon as it's drone clear.
Heroic problem solving. That was the MO that was given to you and how you found yourself here. But the problem is a 4 versus 4 and the verticality's against you. That C4's in a dangerous place, but they just slip on by and out of there before they suffer the end. They have the drones. We can see them watching the rotations, keeping an eye on the flanks, the movement in their favor. There is still C4 on the board. A couple of impacts as well to see if they can try and do something deadly here. But we saw a last-second vertical push from the previous round that came out. We've also seen failures. To me, it's down to M80 to see if they can be the buffer. The break on the double door comes through. Yoka goes wide. They're going to see if they can stick the kit behind the smoke at this point. The noise is being covered. They're both stacked up. Do they know? I don't think they know. A post plant out of nowhere, and you can see there's a moment here where M80 need to fight their way up. They cannot quite make the stairs. They cannot quite make it through the core as well. Joom is watching the door, sees the end, and Heroic find another round in a row.
Yeah. Let's just trust each other.
It's a masterclass.
Let's fucking go, Joom!
Distracted on this smoke.
Let's go, Grizzly!
That's the reason you're the IGL, Uno. You're right. Yeah.
There's a reason you're the IGL, Uno. Trust each other, trust our calls. Heroic have just won 5 attacks in a row.
Don't lose your confidence now, okay?
Remember, guys, listen, shut the fuck up and listen. This strat, we don't have to retake anything unless we lose a position. Remember, this is a passive strat. But as soon as you think you're fucked, you call it and we start making a plans what to do. Okay?
All right then.
I mean, player voices are the best. I'm sure everybody at home agrees.
I love this, but we are leaking strats.
Yeah, I mean, until... Okay.
I hope Heroic don't mind.
I mean, it's every team is going through the same, and I guess if they have a problem with that, take it up with Ubisoft. I can only sort of talk from what the production's giving me.
And it's amazing.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I have gotten so much joy out of hearing it, because you never really get it.
And you know what? It makes my job easy, because I can tell you exactly what Heroic are doing this round. So they have a passive strategy here on this Armory defense. They're going to be leveraging these mirror windows to hold power positions, likely the Azami as well. Even the mirror windows have these bandit batteries to support it. We saw early on in the game a little bit of ace action to counter these mirrors. But another thing we saw in the very, very first round, which I think might be what you've spotted, is this Ossa from Kino. My concern is we've got 2 C4s, we've got 2 impacts on Sloth. There's a lot of ability here for Heroic to counter that Ossa play, so it's a huge risk for M80.
Joom's going to be the first point of call, and this is how the first point came to push as well. They went in for that control underneath. They know that it's an important part of territory you've got to hold on to stop this. A couple of peppered shots coming through, and if it's a passive strat, well, that does give a bit of territory here towards the players that might want to try and eke in and get that plant behind the Ossa shield. Spirits is in, has a hammer, can open himself a rotate via vent towards the workshop if he wants, but Sloth, slips on by, and that is one of those mistakes that you really hope, if you're an M80 fan, does not come back to haunt you.
M80 were up 6-2, and now they're staring down a match point against them. They've got the shakes. They're not quite themselves. They're struggling to string this together. Looks like a fairly vertical take. So many players underneath the bomb site. Spirit's likely to go for some vertical nades, but he needs information. He needs some horizontal pressure from his teammates to ensure these kills. And I think, judging by the position of Kino here outside Archives, this is in fact going to be an OSA Archives plant. But those C4s are still active. Sloth's still got an impact. M80 need to find some picks.
That's it, one impact, one C4 over the top, and unless the person watching here on the AC window is a cracked shot, well, it could be all she wrote at this point. The longer the time ticks as well, the more it ticks away from them. Doom has the ping on the sandwich window player. Upside down rappel, and they're waiting for go. There's also a couple of grenades underneath that might try and catch a player out first before they go for it. They're droning, they're finding the steady bits. There's the first grenade, and doesn't quite get the full bite. Doom pulls himself back, ready with a C4 ripped, 50 seconds, and is waiting to hear the Talon shield deploy. The first one is backwards. The second grenade does get the down, with Spirits getting the lock-in from the guns. The impact's over the top. They haven't quite placed it yet. They're gonna see if they can maybe bait. There's the C4. It does not get the full taste of Kino, though. They're able to just keep themselves alive. They swing. The second does. Uno. And now there's 30 seconds. They've got to try and get that kit back and put the pressure into the site itself. Suddenly, it's a bit of Narnia, a little bit of no man's land, and a little bit of what are you gonna do here, M80?
No choice, 25 seconds left to go. You gotta go hard. Spirits has gotta send it. He's gotta go for this plan.
He's swinging around, they're holding the angle. The plant's gone under the E1D. Noodle gets one, Doom gets one. There's one more. There's only Spirits left. He's able to at least bite one, but look at the time. Look at what he's up against. Heroic, they had absolutely nothing, and now it's all theirs.
We are so much fucking better!
How do you know that?
What the
Said it better if I tried, Mr. Officer. Heroic. What a performance.
Fucking hell, let's fucking go, Sloth!
6-2 down to an 8-6 victory. That is some heroics if I've ever seen it.
Well. They might have quoted Koi halfway through that, saying they came back from 0 to 5. Other teams might start quoting you coming back from 2 to 6 with a meteoric performance of 6 rounds tied in a row. We'll go to a quick break before we're back with us to break it down with map 2.
Yeah, kind of.
I'm Nicholas Morton, but you know me as Pingu. I'm a 2-time Rainbow Six Siege World Champion and former top Rainbow Six Siege player in Pro League. Welcome to my Siege Ranked Bootcamp. We're talking 20 seconds left on the clock, you got the diffuser in hand, what do? Play the way that you're comfortable with, because you have confidence when you're in this position, that is when you're gonna be at your very best. Good luck.
A good start for Dark Zero.
Bit silly from Secret.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it was just... I think the aggression that they'd been trying to play with on defense, I think they've maybe tried to apply the same technique, the same tactic, the same thought process.
I mean, there's 3 of you coming in through the same single window, right? And
We're just going to try and get up in Dark Zero's faces, and we're going to try and rush them, and we're going to try and, make them... And the problem for Dark Zero is I don't feel like it's been speed of thought. It's not been about thinking on their feet. It's not been about reacting. It's just been about not moving quickly enough. So I think, just because you run into their faces, it doesn't mean all of a sudden they're going to crumble.
But the thing is, Tim, that wasn't even the site as well, right? That was the other side of the map, which is weird. It's almost like Dark Zero, to be fair to them, probably have done a good bit of study on how Team Secret attack this map and realise, all right, that's their main point of ingress. It's where they like to start. Let's post 3 players around here and wait for the crossfires. And they played it beautifully. I'll give it to them 100%. A really good read and shut down Secret before they could even get started. Now that we go over towards Exhibition being our actual site, though, let's see how things fare on the other side of the map, as I imagine Secret will start inside of Geisha and work their way across. That's exactly why you've got Dark Zero setting up a bunch of reinforcements and utility.
Yeah, they're going to be ready for that push in once again, I would imagine. I think Secret will probably take the foot off the gas a little bit this time. It was almost like they were trying to prove a point. You've played slowly, it hasn't worked. We're going to play as quick as we can and show you that it does. But unfortunately for them, it didn't. And they're going to have to find the happy average in between that gets the job done for them. Sleben's going to take out that default cam, look for a push to potentially head into a restaurant and up the black stairs and then through tea and karaoke. The drones are in ahead of him this time, and they might just catch out Pamba on black stairs there. Is it going to be Pamba party time, or is he going to get caught out and dealt with?
It's a beautiful thing about the Solus, as well as even the safety things that have been deployed out are going to get taken away, and Savage will just go and replace it here. So back down it goes. Still, opening kill comes in the form of being taken onto Pamba. That Wamai taken off the board by Sleben. Himself with a couple of claymores in back pocket. Clearly wants to put one here at the top of top black. In absence of having something like a Nomad on side, they do help serve as these flank watch gadgets for your potential runouts. It looks like they're trying to protect the backside and make sure there's no nasty surprises coming out of Dark Zero.
Groovy just trying to get something going on the vertical up through the hatch. It's going to be Astro, though, that manages to find Cavani, and that leaves us now in a 5 versus 3. Team Secret, as I said, a slightly more metered, measured approach. They've not gone flying, 3 of them in through a window, and oh, look, you're doing better in the round. Canadian tries to move up the black stairs. Not a chance.
So you say.
Actually gets away with a kill there, but ultimately it's a failure of a flank, I think. NJR manages to get the kill onto Kendrew, but it's 3 versus 2, and Team Secret have got time. 1 minute 20. They are getting things done quicker in the round here than Dark Zero were able to.
Do need to get hold of the diffuser, though. I think that went down in Kendrew's hands, so it needs to be recovered before they make this push forward, just in case there was anyone trying to be too cheeky. And sure enough, there's Groovy picking it back up and working his way up towards Dragon, where NJR awaits. They've also got a push coming in through Terrace here, so working their way in through both north and south. I'm just really nervous that Groovy gets taken down here in the 1v1 against NJR, separated from the team, and they have to re-scramble through unknown ground. In fact, he's abandoned that. Good train of thought, I think. Not trying to push in solo through Dragon. If he dies there, the round's basically done. Has rejoined his team, and they're looking to stack up for a 3v1.
Trying to get the Selma charge active on that wall, but it's going to be blocked out for the time being. That's dealt with reasonably quickly, though, and we see and hear that breach getting opened up. 28 seconds left to go, and Dark Zero might just find themselves holding on. Beautifully done. Love the teamwork. Astro there, ready for the headshot onto NJR, and that leaves it all up to Skies, but out comes the shotgun. He gets one. Can he find another? Absolutely not. Groovy there, ready for the trade, and that's going to be Team Secret taking the round and leveling things up.
It's a Lance.
Thank you very much, Tim and Dez, for a little bit of an intermission there. And God, I love listening to the 2 Little Bird boys.
I'm glad.
I miss them.
Yeah, well, they're still here.
Well, no, they're back.
Yeah, they are. That's true.
Yeah. If anyone is coming to Montreal, to the group stage, to the main stages, please, I beg you, bring fun signs for Tim. I want to see Lasergate signs. I want to see 8-ball head signs. I want to see everything. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. It was M80 show. The first half was a scream for them on border.
Absolutely was, but it didn't last too long. While they did start very strong on their attack and managed to achieve a 4-2 half, And then the first two defenses, something happened. Heroic flicked the switch and managed to run it back from a 6-2 deficit. M80 showed what they were capable of at the start, but let's be honest, Heroic were lackluster. They were disjointed. They weren't a team at all. They were so separated from each other, and I think this round, this failed clutch from Uno, is one of the best demonstrations of that. And once Heroic did flip the switch, I mean, it was a completely different game.
In the words that we're able to listen into, we're paying them too much respect. I mean, that changed and they changed. And there's a couple of things that we sort of saw as the game went on. Heroic 100% grew into it. M80, unfortunately, I think once things started to shift a little bit too far away from them, it really felt the weight of it. They were struggling to have the same engagements they had before. They had so much less freedom. Okay, they went from attacking border to defending border. It is sided. But you look at the confidence they had in that opening half, even the first bit of their defense compared to the end of that, and that was a team just beaten down.
That's it. The two main traits that completely changed for Heroic were their teamwork and their confidence, right? And it's exactly what we heard over the hot mics coming through from the players. Uno was really making so much better calls about what the team needs to do, and he was saying, guys, trust my calls. Yeah. Let's play like a team. Let's play together. And as I was saying, that round where it was a 3v3 with 15 seconds to go, Uno finds 2 kills and starts planting, and his 2 teammates are nowhere to be seen. Perfect example of what was going wrong and what this team fixed. Mr. Officer, of course, was fired up, and we see some fist pumps going into the game. Uno is the leader, leading his team into what is now M80's map pick. Clubhouse should be a treat. We have not seen M80 play this map since September. So it's time to run it back and see whether we will go to map 3 or if Heroic can take it 2-0.
It's been a while. It's been a while, and a while is often the truest test, especially here. This is the joy of best of 3s opening up on groups, because best of 1s, as we've had for the majors so far, is different. It is. You get such a smaller map pool. There was the very fun, fresh R6S statistic of on the first play day, we saw every single bomb site from every single map. Not just every single map. We saw everything. The whole thing, and you never really get that. It's been such a joy to see a lot of these teams bring out these more secretive maps and plays.
Absolutely. It's very exciting, especially when you see teams pick maps that they've seen their opponents play and look to counter. So that's exactly what's happened here. M80 going to Clubhouse, which they haven't played since September, but Heroic played just yesterday and barely won against Team Secret. And so there's a lot of information out there on how Heroic have been playing, and M80 are looking to read into that. As we go through the ban phase, yesterday Heroic banned the Dokkaebi and the Azami. It looks like they are going to go with that Azami once again, but instead the Monty ban on the attacking side. Not the first time during Six Invitational that someone's banned Monty against M80. We saw it in the FaZe Clan match on Theme Park just yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've got their books, they've got their prep and their stats. Yeah. They know what they want to limit here, and that is the push chance of the Monty. There are very awkward places for a Monty on this map. You're especially thinking of things like, you know, pushing up garage stairs, the rafters, pushing down dirt in this scenario. There's just places where Monty goes, and you don't want to play against that, that's fine. That's why we have the bans that we have. You don't want to play against Azami. Yeah, that makes sense. I think M80 were using a lot of Azami. They were using a lot of cover, and they were using it a lot more successfully than Heroic were. So Heroic have gone, I don't want to play that game again.
No, not at all. Something else that was a very impactful operator in the previous map was Mira, which M80 themselves have banned out. Heroic use that. Well, I'd say both teams use that operator to its fullest extent and really created some power positions. Here we go, though, for Heroic. A start down in Church and Arsenal. We've got the Kaid for a bit of hatch denial, but Joom here, the first player to find some blood, and he puts Spirits down, but not out as of yet. More than enough, though, to waste some time and health of M80 as Joom decides to fall back to site.
What a statement. or a sort of continuation of the game that they were playing before, and Spirits will get picked back up, will get revived, but the buck especially, your soft destruction, if you're looking at Kitchen, if you're looking at these angles that they've got to be, you know, a little bit close to the fire on it, and you're looking at, oh, I don't know, James, 3 C4s on the other team, a whiff of some smoke, he is so close to being knocked apart, and as your only real soft breach here, outside of a couple of things in the pockets of Kino and Yoga, you got to try and keep that skeleton key as driven as possible. Talking of, they're pretty driven to try and match these firefights at the top of the stairs. If they get caught out, things can be a bit sketchy, but it seems like sketchy is what Gomez is expecting here with a slow and steady approach via Adam down towards blue.
Sloth, he's got some confidence here. You can see after map 1, where he went 0-8 at the start of the map, he's really starting to find his form, subbing in here for Heroic. It's been a tough road for this team, which just so recently made roster changes and, of course, had a little bit of drama, if you can call it that, and trying to make sure they got 5 legit players at this tournament. M80, though, have made some good progress here. The double EMP from Yoga, that cleans him from utility, but it does guarantee the hatch to be opened. And, oh, there's the C4 you were asking for.
Well, I was about to make a point about the fact that I think we saw a misthrow of the EMP before, but I guess it doesn't even matter if you just kill the guy. They should be able to hopefully find the claw depending on where it's placed. There it is. If you want to watch from home, that is actually very easy to do. You can generally hit the soft either side and get most of the places the claw is close enough to, and they should be able to get the hatch, but look at it's just the cost.
Oh, wow.
The Selmas and Noodle from bottom to top rocks Kino's head. The pressure on the back of blue. They're putting bullets into the wings and clipping them and trying to slow the birds, but Sloth just rotates out of there, tucks himself from the far end. They have a Goyo canister on the opposite side. They still think he's tucked behind it. There might be a reveal. They don't quite get the full breadth. They're back in sight, but there's only 20 seconds, and now he's back in, sets the fire off. That's gonna tick the whole time round. M80, all they've run into down here is Sloth and bundles of problems, so instead they hit the site. The C4 just does enough to stop that, the swing round. The kit is in nobody's pockets, and the first round is only in Heroics.
With 2 players on the attack, still alive, but staring at a floor made of fire and a cavern filled with gas. It's just not going to work out. Heroic played that game to perfection and prevented that execute. Great usage of the Vulcan canisters, the smoke babes, and just excellent work throughout the mid-round, guaranteeing a kill with a C4. Gets them to a strong start here on the second map. And Emmy, guess what? That is 7 rounds in a row from Heroic this series.
That's the whole map.
Well, yes, but it's across 2 maps. It's actually not one whole map.
I failed.
It's less like you have one whole apple and more like you have 2 halves of different apples.
I want an apple.
You can't
What's your favorite kind of apple?
apples together. I like pink ladies. I think they are one of the superior apples.
I like Granny Smith because they're sour like me.
Yeah.
Top floor. Over to Jim. And we find ourselves trying to, I guess, rebuild from that first round. Let's shake it off, M80, and see if we can try and approach the second with a little bit more of what we expected to see from them. Okay. We throw ourselves back to the previous map, and it was a bit of back and forth either way in the opening half. It's not going to be any different, I think, here, but M80, they need to try and find themselves, I think, mentally back into this. They're obviously not quite as confident as they once were. How could they be? You suffer on the wrong end of this, and until you stop counting the rounds, Mr. James Devmarter, then they're going to find themselves probably suffering the wrong end of it. It's a curse you got to break, and the only way by breaking it is beating them, and that's not the way to start Uno. Where even was that? That was the window out the back of the brick stairs, and who have they lost but Thatcher?
That is devastating, and there's no doubt that Uno knows about it as well. I was going to say, with the Maverick ban from M80, this is going to be a Thatcher-centric match, which also brings into the equation bandit juggling. And I thought this round would be determined partially by that bandit juggle, not even necessary. M80 are going to struggle to clear off the original bandit batteries that it might not even come to that point.
Well, the windows are all open, and Noodle, they're being watched, and if this just gets shot through by either of them, it's a problem. He should shoot it open, but look at that. They're ready and waiting. Gomez suffers a bit. They did get Grizzly on the back end, and it's just waiting for a single...
Oh, the time.
There it is, Spirits. You're about to say the timing works against them, but just had enough of a cover, and they're able to get themselves back with the body advantage. A rotate might come around towards the Billiards window. Gomez is actually going to go a bit wider, potentially all the way over towards the strip side.
This is where M80 need to take a leaf out of Heroic's book. Doesn't take much to shoot the Bandit batteries off this external wall, but now they have to deny the Bandit juggle. Is Uno in position to try and deny this exothermic with his battery? He is not, and indeed, the breach is open. Uno immediately goes down, leaving Sloth as the lone player near the site. Doom was downstairs. M80 have a minute to work with now to confirm this execute.
A much better reaction here from M80. They've made sure that everything is tested, checked, and time again. Doom gets one. They slink their way back towards the site. They're looking for the next fight, and they've got the drop and logistics hacks to worry about. That drone gets the first. He wants to try and lean into the engagement and see if he can get it as the lead-in, but look, they have the body count to just drone themselves ahead. The flash is on the back end. Spirit suffers a shake alongside Doom. The blinds across the back of the board as well. 40 seconds. And a bit of a fight over the opening. Can they get it? Oh, a mistimed sprint there with Doom getting one back. He's got to find more, but he can't. And finally, M80 breaks 7 rounds of loss to find their first win in a while.
Let's get 3 points here.
Let's get 3 points here, hey? Well, you're going to have to win 2 more maps to achieve that. There's a real chance here for M80 to get their heads back in the game. On their map pick of Clubhouse, they've already found an attacking round just 2 rounds in. I mean, typically I'd say Clubhouse, you'd expect a 3-3 or a 4-2 for the defense. So nothing to write home about yet. The big thing for me is historically, the last 3 times that Heroic have played Clubhouse over the course of the last 5 months, they've actually had a 58% attacking win rate. So when Heroic switch onto the attack, we would expect them to have quite a bit of confidence and competence. And so if this ends up at a 4-2 for M80, I still wouldn't count out Heroic.
I think that's it, as well as after the first map, how can you ever count out Heroic? They couldn't have been closer to death's door, and they pulled it back. They have that as a mind game they can go back to, and we'll see what bar is the extension. There has been 2 attempts at a spawn peak in a row. One more successful, the other was a 0.5 success, but we'll still count it. Will they expect it again?
Will they do it again, I wonder? So as we could typically expect on a bar defense, quite a heavy extension upstairs from Heroic. However, I do wonder at this Qayyid's effectiveness when we have the Thatcher on the board. M80 likely very early on will be looking to breach this jacuzzi wall. It is step 1 of attacking, and not only does it put a lot of pressure on this top floor, but it cuts off the retreat for any of these players down the main stairs. And so here comes Therm. Yoga to come and support with his EMPs. Grizzly feeling a bit of pressure. No Bandit juggle on the board, so this should be a pretty easy breach now for M80. Oh, the Qayyid trick. Is he going to double EMP it?
Oh, just in time. Run, Grizzly, run! Gomez suffers a bit of a break, but Grizzly suffers a little bit more. They threw themselves with the dedication there, and the impact was ready for a run out. Noodle wanted to try and get the angle on the far end. Doom, in the meantime, his amount of control and territory he has is fairly quickly slipping away. They are above. They have the hatch if they want to try and find a route out. He doesn't quite want to take it yet. He wants to see if he can get a head and a scalp before he has to drop down the hatch and go for the rotate. But as I said before in the previous round, M80 have definitely learnt lessons and found themselves in a little bit more of a slow, steady, structured approach here. Grizzly, he's backed himself all the way. Sloth has some angle on the width. It's going to force Diaz to come over here and force the players out. If you are wanting the vertical control, to be honest, of all of it, construction is what you want. What are you planning, Sloth? And Noodle.
It looks like they're planning to go for a run out here, but I think Diaz placed the exothermic and didn't detonate. There we go. He detonates on his way out just to put perceived pressure on. Yoga's made his way here into Master. Finally, an opening pick as Spirits has taken control of logistics. Starts to clear out some Banshees, and this top floor control is paramount for M80.
Yeah, it looks like they're angling themselves up for a plant on the back end of Strip and Billiard side, and well, with Heroic finally being forced out, you're still only looking at 50 seconds left, and there is still some utility underneath. Sloth, scraped and injured, and just going to sort of sit and wait for the approach to come against him, concerned about the big breach behind. Whether you're there or not, that's the point, you make it problematic to be there. Uno tucked in the meat locker, waiting for the width of the swing and the Alder that can just tear things close, but Diaz seems like he wants to take this fight to Uno. He's out of there. They know they got a bit of time. They can reformulate, remove, reposition, and try and reevaluate where this kit is going down. That is one of that 6 people about your team. You got time, you got to trade. It goes a little bit against you, but 10 seconds. And now with Uno putting the pressure, there goes Gomez. The kit's still making its way across. There's Kino getting one more, but Diaz, he's got to see if he can try and get this stuck down. And he doesn't need to finish it. One more round for M80 in a row.
Oh my god! Let's go! Oh my god! Oh my god, things! Oh my god!
A scary one of that though for M80. It was very, very late. I was looking at that 25 seconds left. And we still have players filing their way in through Freezer and Kitchen just to even get close to the bomb site. There was a real chance there that Heroic could have pulled that one away from M80 at the last moment. But stealing their nerve, M80 do manage to get a second attack in a row here. Emmy, this is already an excellent start for them on this attacking side. It does put that pressure back onto Heroic. They've tried Gym Bedroom, they've tried Bar Stage, and the only site where they found any form of success is down in Church and Arsenal.
Well, let's see if they can replicate that success from before. It was pretty good, but it did come down to time. It came down to M80 being burnt and locked out of the site. There was a part of it that almost was successful. The drive just right down, dropped the kitchen hatch, I think hit the corridor as well, and just got caught out by the C4, but after getting 2 kills inside the site itself, it's not that the round was a million miles away. And M80 are well aware of that fact. They could be sitting 3-0 right now. They want to be sitting 3-1. Let's see if they can try and drive it. A change here. Solace in the pockets of Sloth. Once again, a bit slow to get into gear here, unfortunately. Can it happen a little bit sooner? I guess it's one of the things that time will tell.
Well, Sloth is on such a powerful operator here. The Solus we've seen, one of the ultimate playmaking operators. You can get so much information about what the attack is doing, whether it's spotting the diffuser if it gets dropped, whether it's spotting players on cameras, whether it's spotting the drones themselves, or other forms of utility like claymores and air jabs. Sloth, though, he is going to reveal his position with a spray upstairs as M80 begin to go for this map clear, breaching on that jacuzzi wall. My concern for M80 is even if they do succeed in the map clear, you look and you've got Echo and Goyo in for the late round, so keep that in the back of your mind. M80 need time to execute. Otherwise, they'll meet the same fate as they did last time attacking this bomb site.
Well, Sloth seems dedicated to hold on to the ground for now. There's a bit of width from the push. Doom has got some support structure, gets himself rotated, and well, with that being watched, it's a very dangerous route. They're sort of saying, we've got you surrounded, give up and, well, we'll still probably kill you, and Spirits is going to see if he can try. The pressure comes against the window, just misses out the first engagement, misses out the second, but that's why you have Kino in that position, ready for the swing, ready for the catch. It leaves just the Solace. Sloth.
Oh, is he going to do it?
I mean, I don't recommend this at home, people. Do not hide behind the toilets.
Well, this is either going to be amazing or terrible, but oh, there you go. Terrible it is. Yoga has spotted him out, and the rat play does not pay off for Sloth. Not yet, at least. He still has a chance to take one with him, but there's no way he escapes this alive. M80 are playing it smart, though. They're not feeding him, not getting over-aggressive. They're throwing the flashes in, and they dismantle him. This man can't do a goddamn thing.
A minute left. Noodle inside the meat locker.
Why?
Grizzly a little bit further up brick stairs. Uno the only one on the site itself. They're hoping to stress the time. And there's the first fight. There's your bit hard breach gone. Yoga gets the refrag, but well, you've just got now the thermite. Okay, they bought a plan B. They didn't always have that. Now Grizzly is inside the kitchen. They are really hoping to just steal the time and the lives. Misses the fight. Oh, and that is a huge moment that has slipped away from Grizzly. We know they're good at shutting it down. All the flashes in the world. They're around the corner. They don't quite get the fight and the angle. They've lost the man, and this is all precious, precious time. There's one for Grizzly. He's going to look for a second. He doesn't quite get it because they're like, we need to hit the site. They're sprinting. He's seeing if he can get the catch, but they're inside. They got the call. There's nobody there. We got the one kill. There's one more for Grizzly. The Echo. He's looking for the long range. Has the pre-fire. Cannot quite get the connection. It's Yoga. Just saves the round.
Oh no! You're gonna retire! Oh shit!
Oh my god!
You're nasty.
In all my years, I've never seen a round like that.
Hello, Anarchy! Where are you?
Heroic continuing to throw bodies at the problem. Every time a risky play didn't work, they doubled down, they tripled down.
You're on each side, no communication of what you're gonna push on. You're hiding, for fuck's sake. What are we? Hello? We don't hide, we fucking contest. That's how we win.
Right now,
stop this bullshit.
Play with you together. Like this.
Come on,
constantly. Constantly together.
We fucking got
We
this
need to
then,
do
boys.
shit together. Even if we give one side up and play super aggro on the other side.
Can we listen to M80?
Bedroom denied.
Let's go, boys.
Get a little bit of M80.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't. It's kind of a shit example on this track, because.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I don't
this,
care. Forget
this we
the
just play
trap. Do the
together.
setup. Play together.
It's not that hard.
Mainly Heroic.
Yeah, well,
It was that time.
things for sure is that Heroic is saying some
we bring
interesting
all my
things.
I mean, it's a similar sort of talk they had before. They need to stay together. They're sort of cowering, they're hiding, and if you do that, look at what M80 did there. The amount of coverage, the amount of clarity. What M80 does very, very well in their attacks is that coordination. They have intel and they use it. They don't sort of sit around, and they make sure that they use it in a way that is precise.
This is the thing, and it comes down to the read, right? Heroic can play these aggressive plays if they have a good read of their opponent, that their opponent is not going to be expecting that. The thing with M80, as we've demonstrated, I think, to perfection that round, is that they leave no stone unturned. And we see this quite frequently, I would say, from North American teams. They tend to be very thorough. I'm thinking about Space Station, looking at how they played yesterday in particular, and M80 in this match, they will drone everything. They will be incredibly thorough, and the punishment of that is sometimes if a team can counter that well by contesting map control, shooting drones and peeling back and playing time, late round operators such as your Echo, your Goyo and your Smoke, then it does really punish that slow methodical playstyle, that really thorough, risk-adverse playstyle. But Heroic, I don't know if they've got that read as of yet. They are going to gym and bedroom instead of retrying that church and arsenal, which is the concern for me.
Yeah, I guess we'll see if the gym adaptation is one that they can try and get in. It was a bit scrappy last time round. M80 just sort of strong-armed themselves in. A couple of choice rotates did not quite function. Hey, remember how it opened? Yeah, that was right. Thatcher got spawn peaked and they couldn't get this wall properly open for a long time. Now, it's going to be a much quicker affair. There's still some weight here for the roll. There's the first Uno, there's the cover, too hard for each. They're going to get this open. The second comes through. They do get the exothermic, so they did limit it, but the wall is opened.
I wonder if they're going to try and redo this. There's enough manpower outside the balcony here for M80 for them to try and put another exothermic on while Gomez covers. And indeed, that's what they're going to go for. There's no way you can test that Uno. Very brave man he is.
No, at that point you just let that wall fall, but you are happy that you took some of the utility away. They're making sure that they can't bandit trick bathroom. That gets opened and it does cut the site in half. Wants to take the fight. Couldn't quite get the angles. They pops themselves back in. Yep, droned out. That castle wall just behind him does get him some semblance of safety, but there is a big old glaring window next to him that is going to be deadlier sooner rather than later.
Now what's next step for M80? Typically teams will go and breach open that CCTV wall to prevent the peek from the window covering the master balcony so that they can play safely on that balcony. Uno is taking a fairly risky position. I believe he's looking under the castle barricade at the moment. A lot of Heroic, yeah, there you go. I mean, he doesn't really have a solid angle here. I mean, M80 still have quite a lot of players on this balcony. They're looking to just brute force this issue. We've seen M80 in the past. They're not afraid to just send it straight to site.
And that's it. They've got Gomez watching the stairs. They've got Spirits on the top of logistics as well. It's a 3-2-1, and they're inside the bathroom. They're going to swing themselves around on the site. It's being watched a bit. Sloth stops some of the progression, but with Grizzly winning the first on the far end, you can see a rotation coming underneath, and they've got themselves a bit stuck. Kino has the kit. Only 30 seconds, though. He's going to have to try and find a fight somewhere, and the game's been a bit rumbled. You're surrounded. They're in front of you. They're behind you with that castle wall. He's happy to play, but a double kill over the top. They're looking for the third. They still can't find their way out. The Nitro gets one. Uno gets Yoga on the castle, gets an option, and gets himself one teammate less, and suddenly Gomez is screaming through this, pre-fires the angle, but they've got a plant. There's the cover, there's the rotate back round. They see the ping on the player, they see the rotation, they're almost out of time. They just have to get it, they do!
Well fucking played!
Because if I'm calling off the before,
That's a clutch and a half from Doom. The 1v3 finally get Heroic back in the game after losing 3 rounds in a row. They find some magic and some brilliance, some of what we saw on map 1.
He nitro sold it.
They're going to need a lot more of that to take this 2-0.
And as you said, they like to brute force some of their holds and their takes. They tried. They charged themselves in and then suddenly were stuck. The castle wall proved problematic. And one of the things was 3 of them broke in from that single. Nobody was on gym window. 1 player in that position able to at least draw a fight from Uno, maybe get the kill, and suddenly you have safety. Suddenly you have a side of it that you might be able to work with. They had a little bit of tunnel vision, a little bit too much of an impression of we can do this right now. Sometimes it does not quite hit the mark. Heroic. I mean, you couldn't get closer than a time round. Hey, what else was a time round? The only other one that they've won this game.
Yeah, that's very true. Thinking about players like Doom, just being able to step up in a moment like that, it's not easy. It really isn't. I think Heroic played that defense fairly well. I mean, M80, like you said, going for that aggressive push. Heroic were pretty patient, happy to just play their crossfires, and they managed to even it up fairly well before M80 turned it around. Really narrow margins in really claustrophobic executes like that, but sometimes a 1v3, it's all it takes for some player to just put the round on their shoulders like Doom did just then. Okay, that's not a C4 I've seen much before, Doom, but I like the ambition.
Yeah, it was well rehearsed, but the Thatcher had, unfortunately for Heroic, already left, eked themselves further away. But look at this, probably the soonest we've seen Heroic players fall themselves back to the site since the very start. I think one of the things that we can sort of look at across the board here is Gomez is obviously having a huge game, 8-2. Nobody can really match that on the side of Heroic. All of them are suffering on the wrong end of the guns, no more so than Sloth once again. Unfortunately, really struggling to hold off and get into breaking back against the approaches here from the attackers. M80, they're getting themselves in quite quick. Loads of time to play with here, and as they start to clear across bar, with this much time, you know that the basement's going to be under pressure soon.
And Emmy, just looking at this lineup from Heroic, you know that they're going to be really powerful in the late round. You've got 2 shields to play off, you've got the smoke and the Vulcan canisters, and this really punished M80 last time. I mean, it's great that they're getting these hatches open, but there's so much more to do in the round. You can't be satisfied with just containing all the hard breach, because there's only a certain amount of explosives that M80 have available. I really like that play from Kino. He knows exactly where to put that Selma so that it doesn't get affected by the electric law, and as a result, he can open the hatch, and Gomez can open the round.
Yeah, I highlighted them at the start of this, and apparently they're going to highlight themselves as the first engagement. Gomez keeps screaming through whatever Heroic puts up against them, and Sloth, he loses life much earlier than the last time he held this position. That player's on a drone. They seem to have a bit of an awareness, but not quite enough. Noodle, he suffers from the hatch itself. The beeps are all around him. Spirits gets the lock-in with the skeleton key, and inside the site as well. Doom goes down. Spirits finally gets caught. They're trying to smoke and stop anybody else screaming through. Grizzly, that was huge! Gets the double and suddenly brings it back into a 2 versus 2 from nowhere. Kino gets 1, leaves just Grizzly, not for very long.
Kino's so good. You feel me?
And with that, Kino, so good. Gets it across the line for M80. That's a 4-2 half on their attacking side.
And we just come to me.
He is simply diff. And that's putting a lot of pressure now on Heroic to match that 4-2 record on their own attack.
I mean, it's sort of how we saw it last time around. It was a 4-2 half, and we know how that ended up, but club functions very different. If anything, there's a little bit more with the defenders to work with, and let's see if M80 can try and work with it. You cannot argue that they've come back into this swinging. It started a little bit sketchy, but 2 rounds go into time. I mean, that's, as I said before, as close as it can be. You cannot emphasize how the 2 rounds from Heroic here have been eked through. It's not their map, fine. But still, if they want the 4 points, they've got to try and find some of that magic from Border.
If there's anything as a consolation here for Heroic going into the second half at such a deficit, is that they are historically a good attacking team on this map. In the last 5 months, they have a nearly 60% win rate. If they can match that in this game, then yeah, they'll be up 4-2. But You know, it remains to be seen. Really, Heroic just seemed to be such a momentum and emotional-based team. We saw that on map 1, didn't we, right? Like, complete shambles at the start of the game. They start to find their confidence, they start to trust each other and work together, and they finally see some results. And as Mr. Officer said, like, what do they do hiding under tables and stuff in this game? They need to trust that if they play properly, they can win these rounds.
Exactly. They are great gunners. They sure are coming in on a bit of a back foot, but still, you are at this level and playing at this tournament because of the work that can be done by all of you. The Valk getting the clean eyes, hoping that they can get the catch with the C4s. There's ones already ripped and torn underneath, ready to see if they can pop the players, watching and waiting, but so is Noodle. Crept their way down, being droned ahead. There's a player to their left. Do they know? Well, now there's one to their right, and they know! Oh, he's inside! Gets the first, screams his way around. He's going to pull himself back. Might be able to remove the claw at this point, but suddenly Heroic, I mean, they're in. You got to pay attention towards the site itself. No longer watching the C4s and Valk cams, just got to let them loose.
Yeah, I don't know how to put words to that one, but Noodle has certainly opened an opportunity that Heroic need to grab with both hands. Instead, Kino grabs that powerful pump, and Noodle gets a face full of buckshot. Maybe there is a chance now that M80 can reconcile after that strange happenstance at the start of the round.
I mean, it's the big problem right now, isn't it? Is whatever M80 wanted to do, it's been sort of put to a side because of the pace that came through. The Kaid's gone. They're still running those just for the safety. They're looking for the Valk cam to see if it's tucked around the corner. They're trying to find it. They also shot out the jukebox as well. They want to make sure that anything they do is not being watched. The ping's on the player. There's one on the stairs itself, and it seems that Gomez wants to continue the tear, and they have a pretty good gun in the right hands to do it. Joom creep their way in, and tempted by the idea of rolling a grenade for a second.
I mean, it's about hatch o'clock, I think, Uno. It's time to open up this kitchen hatch and start getting yourself some options. And Grizzlies all out of Selmas, so any further hatch work will be Uno, but it seems like Joom once again is the man of the hour.
Smoke gone as well. Your smoke gone, and that is one of the big operators for this kind of plant if you want to try and stop it. Diaz has to get a bit aggressive and go for the retake, but with that hatch gone, he's actually realized, well, they're going to try and drop Moto. It's being watched a little bit from above just to buy them some safety. The width comes, but so does 15 seconds. That ominous beeping as Joom gets a kill right down the core. There's Sloth, tucked around the corner, finds his first, suffers a scrape on the second. Can't quite get the lock in, but Uno, he's going to see if he can stick the plant. Can there be some last second heroics from Yoga that we've seen from Heroic? Not this time.
Let's go. Watch your fucking looks!
No fear at all from Sloth as he pursues that final kill. And Heroic, a fiery start on their attacking side. No doubt, confidence flooding through their veins after pulling off a ridiculous play like Noodle managed to achieve. Walking all the way down through the bottom of main stairs, through short into Moto. Hang on, there's a Kaid on cams in here. Freest kill of his life.
Do you know, I wouldn't have pegged this one to be one that turns into a bit of a bloodbath. I mean, it's always going to be a fight, don't get me wrong. But you ever watch a game, James, and you're like, this is getting a bit personal.
It really is, man.
It's getting a little bit naughty.
Being able to hear the comms is increasing that tenfold.
Obviously.
You know what is a big part of it as well is Heroic's up to some serious shenanigans.
Oh, yeah.
The way they are playing these rounds, there is some absolute tomfoolery going on. And M80's got to do something about it.
I mean, it's that sort of trade-off here. And obviously, for those watching at home, if this is your first time sort of experiencing the comms of players on esports, they say stuff in the heat and the passion of the moment. It doesn't carry on outside of the game.
Line fever.
Yeah, it's, you know, your blood's pumping, you're full of sugar and caffeinated beverages and a lot of water, so you're healthy. And then this energy of we gotta beat them, it comes out in volume, it comes out in pounding your chest and hitting the keys. And then afterwards you sort of diffuse and go, damn, we won, we lost, and you shake hands and move on with it. But this is what you enjoy, and I wouldn't have expected it to get this sort of scrappy. I'm enjoying my time.
I am too.
Ooh,
and well, that's one way to kick it off.
That's a huge player gone as well. I've highlighted how important they were on the attack, and now that, I mean, I think it was at one point a 4.0 KD has only drifted to a 2.0.
Oh, wow.
Only.
What a shame.
But Sloth got his first 2 kills in the past round. So, This is that sign that, you know, if Heroic can go back to that game they did so well in their attack before, as he said, they're pretty good at attacking this map, and that is a bit concerning because all it does is trigger those flashbacks like that dog with that cupcake gif of, oh no, it's happening again.
All right. Hey, just talking about opening picks for a minute, something Jesse harped on a lot about on the desk.
He does do that.
Yep, he likes to have a good yarn. Heroic are a phenomenal opening kill team, one of the best in the biz, and they've once again started it. And now that they can go back to basics, you know, bit of shenanigans to get your opening pick and then just play standard, play slow, sort them out. The Spirits already had a bit of info on where that IQ was headed, and I think M80 are starting to read this. They figured out there's actually no one here on platform. It does take a bit of damage to someone way outside, I believe, on the top of Strip.
Yeah, look at this though, the strip take, it's not the most common scene, especially in EU as well. As you said, they sort of read where the hold is, and Noodle is knocking on the door. There's the open hatch, it's dangerous, the C4 can come up from behind, but there's a couple of tucked places you can put this kit down. The reveal of the player, the drop of the camera, the sort of statement that we're inside and we're putting the pressure on is something where M80 have to react.
Who's outside? What?
Doom is, but not anymore.
Yeah, well, certainly not, because he's walked right into the waiting arms of Kino. There's so much information here in this lineup from M80. You've got the bulletproof camera, you've got the Solus, who can also see the plant going down, the Valk and the Echo, and that's the real scarcity for Heroic. They need to deny this information. They spotted out one of the Yokais, though.
Grizzly and Yoga, they're able to find one apiece, and one of them is the aforementioned Grizzly, but the Solace is now gone. No more tricky plays against the plant. 3 versus 3 with less than 30 seconds, and the verticality is still not entirely confident. Do they know about Diaz? I don't know if they do, but the Echo, they're in a position where they might swing into this. Noodle gets one, the dance is theirs, and well, Uno's going to see if he can stick it. Yoga does have an impact. Can he have an impact in time? Unfortunately not, and we are back level.
And Sloth's getting fired up as well. Really slow start to this series, but he's absolutely found his place now. Exceptional use of his gadget on the IQ as well. It was paramount in that round that Heroic could deny all of the possible plant denial that M80 had brought to the table, and basically all of it electronic. Great usage of his gadget and just a perfect read as well, always getting to that right position to take down those players. Not allowing that plant denial to be part of the equation. Now we're at even Stevens, Emmy. It's 4-4 on the scoreline. Heroic have not dropped an attacking round yet.
Yeah, M80, they haven't opted to use their timeout either. If this round goes away from them, they will. I don't think there's any real doubt about that. 3 losses in a row, the entire half as well, 100% failure rate is, well, as it often was with the same on the other side. Yeah, let's have a talk about this. Let's try and change things out. Since then, it's been a little bit more back and forth into Heroic's favor, but we are still far from over, as proven by the first map.
And M80 will be gunning to at least get the 1 point, take their own map pick. It was, of course, them who picked here Clubhouse. And Heroic brought back border in an incredible fashion. I've been bringing that fire here onto Club. Looks like it's a bit of a roam here from Spirits on the top floor. Yoga as well to join him. Good old roaming Warden. Give these guys a 1.5 and see what they can cook up. Guess what? It's Choom. 3 rounds in a row. He's opened up the game for Heroic, and he's already in the building, less than 30 seconds in.
Oh, June was not happy with them saying they wanted to retire Uno. They said, hey, leave our granddad alone. He's definitely driven himself back into this game, straight through the core and the heart of the building. There's players above, there's players below. His time should be ticking, but support is slowly coming round. Spirits goes down, gets one, pulls himself back up, doesn't want to try and risk the resurgence in return. Yoga does suffer a bit of a scrape on the door itself, stuck onto the side. Bullets buzz by, Gomez gets caught, and Sloth holds the trigger, but Spirits, importantly, at least make sure they can still put a body back. Spirits on the top floor, Kino in the middle, stuck between the Joker and the Clown. In the middle with you.
What are his options, though? Getting back to site is not going to be easy now. Kino is all lonesome. Oh, but Spirits, that's perfect. Not only does he get back safe, he takes a body with him and evens up the numbers. Uno and Sloth now, both players have really come into their own in this second map. But Kino has that smoke, and Spirit, he's got that 1.5 times scope on the T5 SMG. He's shown what he could do with it. Just 2 more headshots, and this round could be over. M80 regaining the lead and finding their first defense.
the fact that Sloth has gone from no kills to 6 to almost an even KD over 2 rounds is something that Heroic can try and hold on to here. And Uno has been Mr. Consistent. Listen to your IGL. But Kino with the smokes. Spirit's in this position. A huge round from the Oryx so far. They have a little bit of wiggle room. The breach has come through. There's still plenty of time as the hatches get popped open. They're trying to find the clarity on just where the players are. Kino and Spirits have to make sure that they can try and pinch the fight at the same time. Uno has a drone on the far end. Sees that Kino is holding on. The first smoke pops onto default. They have 2 more. Another 30 seconds of waste is well within their reach.
Sloth's going dirt. Uno to go on the hatch. Kino is the perfect operator to deny this. Sloth is still in dirt as Kino's unsure. What is the play for Heroic? M80, not quite sure as of yet. That said, dirt now open. Kino vulnerable to Sloth, and Spirits may well have to be the playmaker here. Kino starts to move his way up from dummies, but he loses his head. It's now all up to Spirits in the 1 versus 2 Sloth on 1 sliver of HP. Is Spirits gonna be able to get past him? Absolutely not. He may be Sloth, but he ain't slow.
Over 3 rounds, screaming his way back to a positive KD, and you can see it on the faces of M80. And I'm sure we'll hear it on the voices of them too as they've called their timeout. Let's have a listen in to the NA team if we can.
It's really good. It's catching them off guard. They have no idea for the rest of the defenses how to hold this. They have no idea. All of their strats, now they only see the openings. Oh shit, they can push here, they can push here. Let's use that as an advantage. 1 round, we can do maybe default. Next round, we can go back to this randomness, you know?
Yeah, we need to be careful with them changing what they're doing for our attacks, because they just take us out. So now their coach is going to come with shit.
One of the things that you also have to think about, they actually don't know how to defend for shit.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They're just panicking, just trying to go aggro.
Like this, okay? You guys prefer to do safe now?
Yeah, go cash.
You going to see Jim?
I think cash, no?
No, he said Jim.
Fish? Fish? Like TD, bruh.
I'll tell you what, it was very clear when we switched from listening to Heroic to switching to M80, and the main reason is because Heroic were talking a hell of a lot more.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Usually not a good sign for the team that is not talking. Typically means that they don't have a lot of good things to say. M80 though, they were just discussing which site to go. Ended up going Jim, and as we can see, trying a 3rd different bomb site. They haven't yet tried this one. Failed on Church Arsenal twice, failed on their bar stage. And it's looking like a rough outlook from here for the NA fellas. There's a lot of work ahead of them, and you can just start to feel it. Heroic, when they get the ball rolling, there's no stopping them.
It's so tough because, as I said, we know the capability of M80 and you see these sparks of life, but sometimes the unknown entity is the hardest thing to fight against. It's the hardest thing to control. The famous phrase is, how could they play on their day? Sometimes it's impossible to stop. At this point, how could they play from a deficit? You can't go more to hero than from 0. There's not a bigger gap. And they're living up to their namesake right now. Last time M80 took a timeout, Heroic got 4 rounds they needed afterwards. This time they only need 2.
Heroic have been phenomenal on these opening engagements. Every single round of attack, they found it, and it hasn't been traded afterwards. That's why if I'm M80 here, I'm really cautious in the opening round. Cautious for lurking players. We've seen Noodle and Joom accomplish so much in doing so. But also, you got to be worried. That's the thing with Heroic, and that's the thing that Uno was saying in the M80 tactical timeout. Heroic know how unpredictable they are right now. They know that M80 doesn't have their number, and they're using that to their advantage. Forcing M80 to play passively because they're scared. What if I turn that corner and there's Joom just waiting for me?
The impact saves the Salmo and stops the wall being open. Gomez taking a bit of a risky swing, but to be fair, Thunderbird has a heck of a gun to do it. Diaz does not. Dropped on the back end, might be able to get themselves back up. They are. I'm assuming that was from the Thunderbird. No, in fact, luckily they're double stacked with spirits, and that'll buy them some success. But here, they should be able to get themselves healed up to take another engagement. Still not the way you want to start the round. A bit of a scrape and a scratch, and suddenly no more downs for you. A rotate comes through. Heroic, they're happy with what they've got from one side. They're going to see if they can try and do it the rest, or they're just unhappy they weren't given anything. So the pressure needs to come towards Yoga, and Uno's going to cut off that as the first step, probably hit the construction wall. Make sure that if they rotate back round, they'll be watched from two different sides. This is the first, and the other will be the window.
Well, there goes Con external wall. Here comes a nade from Noodle. Oh, it may be timed perfectly.
Oh no!
Kino is so unlucky. He had only just moved back in a bathroom. Is there going to be a drop down? That Con hash. There's no way Noodle lands this twice. Gomez lucky to be alive.
That was almost a blessing, unless you're an M80 fan. You can see he's got a little bit of a shoulder shake. I survived it in 30 seconds. Is left to survive the pressure up the stairs. If 2 rounds can be won by time already, can Joom get a catch? They're rotating and moving. The drop is there.
No.
Sloth gets 1 and 2. Both of them caught out in the small little pocket. Noodle has the one end, and it's a flawless. Onto map and series point.
That is grimy. Good fucking job. Let's go, boys. What are they doing?
Unbelievable scenes from Heroic. The double hatch drop. Sloth found the openings that he needed.
She's not bad.
I'm not gonna Warden's fucking sponsor, bro.
And as we listen into M80, it's not quite the same vibe.
I mean, the conversation's there. I'm going to go Warden. I'm going to spawn peek Gomez. Let's see if it rewards you. Yeah.
Do it, man. I gotta say, it is pretty scary when we switch to their audio and all you can hear is, let's go Cash. Yeah, Cash CCTV is not that bad. Man, it's a pretty sketchy sight, I'm gonna be real with you, especially when his army is banned. This is a very scary prospect trying to hold on here.
It's almost a weird thing, though, about CC. Because we always talk about it being default. We talk about it not being easy to attack, but known to attack. Maybe if you have to force Heroic to play something that is known, you might have a little bit more knowledge.
The thing is, there's no way Heroic just do the obvious thing here.
No, I'm looking for glass half full here. I'm looking at the fact that M80, Heroic pulled back from a worse deficit. It's so not over. It's so tough. I'm not going to say anything other than that. There's the spawn peak. Didn't quite come together.
I was going to say, what M80 would have really liked there is Gomez spawn peeking onto Sloth. Not only is his utility so essential here, but he's just been on fire these last
He hasn't died.
Yeah.
He hasn't died since they've had the resurgence. And he's got 9 kills without dying. If they didn't have the first half of this game, Sloth would be on to maybe set records. Unfortunately, he had to open 0 to 6.
Well, he had a slow start, but at least he's nailing it now. And Heroic, as you said, series point. On the cusp of taking home 4 points in their group, furthering their position. And let's be real, like...
Oh no!
Wait a second, what just happened?
Sloth tried to run through the hot breach. Noodle's in as well. He killed himself, but Uno at least finds a kill out of it. Noodle's holding the angle. The smoke's going to stop the motion. They have control underneath, but yes, you did just see Sloth, for all the compliments we paid him, trying to run through a breach.
I've seen it all. I've
a little too early. They're watching for a jump out underneath. They did get the kill inside the site, but the fact that the smoke was very well played stopped the motion from turning into anything entirely deadly. Kino still stacked up on the top of red. There's the break of an ADS. There's Joom getting Gomez, and that's at the bottom on the other side. They've slipped on by with the kit, and Uno, he's going to see if he can plant it. They have Pit. They have the door. Noodle gets Dyers, and now with Joom caught, Kino has to go huge. Yoga gets 1. Uno almost gets caught out on the way out, but it's a 2 versus 2 post plant. It's on the wrong side of the chassis for the right side to take, so they got to see if they can try and swing one of these fights first. Will Heroic hand it to them? If they're able to take a round on the back of an exothermic suicide, well, I don't really know what to say. The smoke is very well played. You gotta pop up. The cover is there! M80 with a huge clutch!
Let's go, boys.
What a play! The gas babe, perfect. The cover from Yoga, exactly what M80 needed. And that's a way to keep yourself alive in the match. match. Just one more round of push OT now for M80 as they finally find their first D.
I believe we can hear the, I think it's Dark Zero Team secret game.
Is that what's going on?
I believe we can hear the Dark Zero Team secret game, which is quite funny because I believe they could hear our game earlier on in the stream.
Ah.
So, it's a, you ever get EU and NA in a room together? I mean, you know it. In our talent room, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm constantly breaking up punch-ons.
Yeah. I love fighting.
I'm well
Especially
aware
Parker.
of that. Yeah. Well, who wouldn't?
Yeah, true. Ooh, M80. One more round and you can find yourself in OT. Doesn't guarantee anything, but to be fair, it brings you back to a chance here. Heroic. I mean, I still love that they almost pulled a round out with the opening death in such a manner.
Yeah, well, there's one thing for sure, and that's Heroic keeps you guessing. Whether it's Sloth sprinting into an exothermic or Noodle getting right on in to the site and staying there for about 40 seconds without revealing his position before eventually the execute comes through. Heroic are very difficult to read right now, and that's the way that they like it. But M80, they have a chance. They have a little bit of fire beneath them at the moment. On the back of that, to be honest, pretty impressive clutch in the previous round. They now go down to the basement for the third time in this match.
It's like if we don't know what we're doing, they don't know what we're doing.
Well, if M80 just dot their I's and cross their T's, they should be able to prevent a lot of this rat shenanigans from Heroic.
Talking of, there was a bit of an adaptation there to try and stop the potential nuke that was so deadly, and that they've softed the double door on the opposite end, so they cannot just crouch and creep their way in. M80, they're sort of giving themselves a little bit more to work with. Spirits isn't sitting on the camera, he's trusting the intel from the others. They have the C4s to try the approach, but it's a slightly different approach this time round. Still very quick. Just passing the 2-minute mark and starting the pressure onto the hatches is about 40 seconds sooner than a lot. And okay, M80 haven't given any real resilience outside of this. They're fully trusting themselves to do a hold down here, but with Thatcher on the board, these walls won't last a super amount of time.
Heroic have made pretty good time here. Half the round done. They've got, I believe, the moto hatch is open. I believe the blue hatch, yeah, I think this one might have actually even been soft here from M80. Heroic's clearing a lot of util as well. Those were my magnets being wasted. The next thing is to clear out these Goyos, the Vulcan canisters, because between them and the smoke, the plant can be denied for a very, very long time.
Gomez is watching up towards the hatch alongside Yoga. The first C4 doesn't quite get the catch. The sledge is making some work, and the hatch will get popped open as well. A little bit more of an angle is spread out. In fact, I'm wrong, it wasn't a C4 that was used. They also still have a claw in pocket as well. Not too sure where that's going to end up, but it's definitely not going to be on any of the hatches, which are at this point long gone. But 40 seconds. Now, as the breach comes through onto Church Wall, it's not going to get directly stopped. They have some angle. It does get electrified a little bit too late, but it stops it being a proper rotate, and that is huge. Doom.
Oh, wow.
Caught bottom to top and rocks on the hatch. The C4 to cement the kill, but at this point, it's Kino that gets the more important one onto Sloth on the top of the kitchen hatch itself. Suddenly, Heroic, they found themselves at a 2-body deficit just before they wanted to go for an execute. They can't quite get the solid lock in. They're missing the M80 players that are very cleverly just drawing themselves further away from the fight. The rotate comes round. They at least get one off the back of it. The fire is the drop. The ping's on a single player. The pepper of the first shot. There's one, there's two. They've got the kit, but it's out of hands now. They find one. Can they get the last player? It's a sprint. No! And if we opened on time wins for Heroic, we end with one for M80.
Man, that was a close round. Criminal that Heroic was able to even bring it back to a 1v1 after that 3v5 late round scenario. M80 had a good read there, and they played the mid round to perfection.
Yeah, I got you.
And as we move into overtime, Heroic go back onto their defensive side, where we saw M80 do so much damage. Their attacks were dangerous.
Exactly. That's the worry right now for Heroic, is you are going to have to play this on the side that you probably don't want to at this point in time. If you don't think M80 can defend, well, that's on you. But what's now on you is you've got to prove that you can. And M80, I mean, the only rounds they lost were to time. A huge clutch was one of them. The other was, you know, a slow start at the beginning of the game. This has got to be a bit more of an impact drive with some of the impact that you've driven home over the past recent half. You know that comebacks can happen. You just did it before. Can you stop it happening again?
Big question I have here for Heroic's defense is how much are they going to go for these aggressive plays? Because we saw during the very early tactical timeout called in round 5 by Heroic, a bit of a roast from Mr. Officer, saying, you know, why are you guys hiding under tables? Why aren't we playing properly? And it looks like Sloth is playing a little bit more aggressively. He's on this Solus and he's making his presence known.
This is the important coordination as well. One of the things they highlighted in that team talk was play together, boys. We need you together. You need to be in a position to refrag. You need to be in a position to bite back at each other. You have to work with a synergy. It reveals the calls, looking for drones. There's the breach that's coming through. How long are you going to sit there? Ooh, it's a dangerous amount of time, especially as they're on the window behind you. They'll potentially fire through that in a moment. So Doom is going to come in off of the aforementioned support that they need.
The scary thing here is how long will Heroic overstay their welcome on this roam? It's very dangerous for Doom to try and cross back to main stairs, and he hasn't done so yet. Noodle also still on this roam in the kitchen hallway. Is Doom still going to try and drop down this hatch, or is he going to try and play his life on the roam? He's really getting enclosed on by multiple angles, multiple sides. He's been denying these drones piece by piece. I think the play is here to play it for late round. There's so much good late round info for Heroic that Doom can continue to waste time on the roam.
I mean, look at this time that's taken away. As I said before, M80 was very clean and clear and they had all the intel, but Doom is dancing around that intel. Another drone's fallen and he's going to head right back up. There's a fight on the top. It's the Thermite, though, that wins it out. Diaz, he was able to be electric before this series and he needs to try and find some of that energy once again. They get one, they hear the breaking and battering, but if I said that Heroic had a lot of time before and they found themselves pressured, M80, they still don't have everything cleared on the middle floor and they've got only a minute.
Well, Noodle's come back to side here, but it's a dangerous game Sloth is playing, retreating all the way back to strip. At least he is the Solus. He can check for flank watch drones himself, and there has been one set now in bathroom, just underneath the flag. He's opened up a rotate as well into pool. Now that may bait out his position. He's goading M80 into pushing him. But if they play this right, they could realize it's a 5v3 on site and turn their attention to that instead.
That's entirely it, and they've done exactly that before, so let's see if they've learned the lessons. Noodle takes the head off of Yoga on the approach and puts a little Grismot down, says, no way you're passing this fight, so they take blue. The drop, the pressure, there's a fire that pops through, and Noodle pops off. Uno goes down, though. Diaz still on the bite, and Gomez has to wait for a pass. Doesn't quite get the bullets into the body. Sloth, he's on the slow creep round above the hatch. If he retakes the vertical here, oh, what do they have? Glasses that can see through the floor and see the planner. He's got to move above. Sloth gets one. The kid's still being tucked into the corner of post plant. A 3 versus 2. They have vertical control. They have an angle. They're trying to find the loose limbs of the player. Grizzly buries back. Kino gets one.
No,
Gomez gets 2. Noodle gets it back, but it's a 1 versus 1. They know where he is. He's stuck on the door. Gotta fight his way out here. Oh, he throws the impact. He cannot find the kill.
What a round from M80. There is no way they made that work. Everything was against them. Noodle had denied dirt control. Sloth was still on the roam. He was a Solus, for goodness sake. Like you said, he could have denied the plant through vert. And yet M80 not only forced that plant down, but stuck it out in the post. Unbelievable. And just like that, they find themselves on their own map points. And 1 point on the standings at minimum up for grabs if they're able to push to map 3.
No, we don't need. I can just pick Yana.
7-6, and we have been here before, but this is now the risky, stressy game. I believe we're having a tech pause, so we'll hopefully be back in motion at a point, and it's a chance for the players to talk amongst themselves and breathe a little bit. Slight problems with connections.
Okay, that's the issue. It might happen again.
It's so dangerous where we're at right now, and oh, it's teetering.
It is tantalizing, this match.
Like this?
And M80,
Just gotta stretch my legs.
after managing that round, got to be a bit fired up. They are so much tamer than the Europeans, I tell you what.
Well, the coaches for both teams.
By far,
Diaz
most animated, that's for
Mr.
sure.
Officer. Not Diaz, Vivas, even. Diaz is pretty fired up though. That round there, the drive through with the kit, it's something that we've been missing. I said it at the start, you know, for being one of the top rated players of the whole tournament, you're wanting that last bit, you're wanting that list, just that list over to success, just that magic at the right time, and that is the right time.
I'll say I'm optimistic. This might be a fairly chill vibe in the M80 side of the booth at the moment, but I think they're doing the right things here. They're confident in themselves. It's not like they need to keep talking about reinventing their strategies going into this defense round.
How do I lean it?
They're pretty confident. They're just getting comfortable. Kino's trying to figure out the controls on his chair. We saw Yoga going for a bit of a stretch. Very relatable, man. I personally have been feeling the need to stretch here in Montreal. It is trying work, and I have no doubt that sitting in those gaming chairs for many, many hours and hunching over, getting ready for these games, it's very trying. As we go through some replays, some of the highlights of this match, it has been a long one, Emmy. It really has been quite a marathon.
I like how this series started with you stepping in. You've had a very long day. You're on the first games of the day. and the first map was like 6-2. I'm like, oh, you get to maybe go to bed sooner rather than later, but also you won't get a series.
Well, it's funny, every single match I have worked on this event so far has been a 2-0. So I'm just really hoping that this is the first 2-1.
Okay, so you were hoping it was a 2-1.
I was hoping.
Then I don't feel guilty.
Well, I am on the early game tomorrow morning.
I don't know if I am.
I am kind of wrecked either way, but hey, I'm just having a good time.
Yeah, the analysts have like a fixed schedule, it seems like, and you know,
yeah, I got shafted to put all the morning.
I know.
All the morning
it's Jesse
games,
and Jacob's fault.
Yeah, everything is always Jesse.
What is wrong with Americans, specifically Jesse?
Yeah.
The most American
My
man.
least favorite.
Oh, look at that. Moisturized, in my lane. Happy, calm, confident. Accidentally killed myself with a breaching charge. Next to that, man. All right, the clapping, the sitting back up, the mic's down, and we are go. 7-6. The last three have been all M80s. They fought back from a 6-4 deficit to find themselves back in, but that was originally a 4-2 deficit once upon a time. This is a very important round for Heroic, obviously. I feel like I don't need to say that.
No, of course it is. I mean, if this goes to map 3, I've got to wonder whether Heroic will run out of steam. They're expending so much energy verbally. They're so animated. In contrast, M80 are a lot more chill, and I think if we go to map 3, the momentum will favor the NA team.
Time will tell. Will time tell? This round, obviously, we've seen time be a dictator. We saw time be the very last one. How close were we to not getting to overtime? It was a 1 versus 1 with a difference of a couple of steps around the generator at the bottom of blue. You couldn't have asked for a sort of closer end, and let's see if they can be sharper than they were. Doom straight in. Back on the attack, a role that they've been able to really come into their own on the opposite end. Attack has definitely been Heroic's more favored preference. Yoga is watching towards Oil. They're maybe expecting something a bit pacey here, and they want to sort of match it head on.
Well, Heroic indeed have shown that they're not afraid to go for those aggressive plays, but for now it is just slow and steady. Clearing now into Bar. Sloth, notice there is indeed an Electric Claw on this Moto hatch, so he'll need to save his EMPs for that. Uno waltzes on over, and then the combo here is going to be a juggle. No, Spirits just grabs his claw and runs away. Instead is going to use it on the Church triple wall.
They didn't double down with the exothermic there. They didn't sort of play another EMP. No, they just sort of went, well, they're going to pull back. They always have. We trust that they're going to do that. We still have 2 in pocket. Please don't die to another exothermic. June, they're able to just survive and get themselves tucked around, and remember that they were one of the first deaths last time. But look at this difference, though. They're in. Gomez does get Uno dropped first off the door. The Thermite is gone. And that's a bit devastating as the approach here. They entirely read the push. Where it's coming from, it's blue, it's Moto, and look at how M80 have moved all the way back into Arsenal.
Yeah, it is a risky play from Heroic. They do lose the player for it, but now they've opened up this Church triple wall. And Spirits is feeling a little bit more pressure. There's far fewer safe positions to play inside of Church now. Thankfully, there is a mirror for Yoga to play off of. But Heroic need to start forming up a push. They're at a numbers disadvantage. I don't believe they have that kitchen hatch open yet either.
And they don't have anything to do it with at this point. They've just got to try and fight through what they wanted. I mean, they sort of showed the idea of putting down this blue push on the opposite end, and as I said, M80 reacted very, very well to it and moved to where they needed to be. There's drones and pings on this player, tucked in perfectly. The drop on Moto Hatch, peppers towards the shield on the back end, but M80 is set up so well to just reflect this approach. Pre-fires, but dropped by Spirits with a heavy hitting gun, ready to swing into the next fight. Spirits suffers, but the drop on the hatch on the back end, Doom can't quite find a full engagement, gets it down, but not the lock-in. Noodle at least gets one. With Yoga still on the ground, it's a technical 3 versus 2, but they've got a plant. They have barely any time. Tucked on the cover, a 1 versus 1 to watch every single angle, but unfortunately cannot be everywhere at once. They get the kit, they don't get much more, but we will get your wish, a third map.
Diaz with a flourish to lock in the 8-6 for M80. We are indeed going to need 3 maps to settle this dispute. Bit of pride from Kino. What a comeback it was.
It was everything that they needed to do right now, and what it does, very excitingly, is give us almost a clean slate for this, the third map that we'll be heading to of Bank, a map that, you know, finds itself suddenly in a best-of-1 situation. Who will take it? Who will have the energy? Will there be a lead, or will this be fought all the way? We'll spoil that. Let's have a quick break and break the map down first.
I'm Nicholas Morton, but you know me as Pingu. I'm a 2-time Rainbow Six Siege World Champion and former top Rainbow Six Siege player in Pro League. Welcome to my Siege Ranked Bootcamp. We're talking 20 seconds left on the clock, you got the diffuser in hand, what do? Play the way that you're comfortable with, because you have confidence when you're in this position, that is when you're gonna be at your very best. Good luck.
This is where things generally start going very wrong. They've left it a little bit too late, gone that little step too slow, and they've got to find these gunfights that simply aren't there to be won. Groovy finds one more, steps up for a second. It's all too easy. Gaveni left alive here, trying to find the last two players, but will not be able to find both. Almost gets one, knows about a man a little bit further back, going to try and make a plan happen here, but Secret will descend. They will get the round closed, and in fact, they went the wrong way.
Gaveni comes off the diffuser there, and I always... It's easy to say the same thing, right?
I mean, they even said save your KD, like, why?
There's absolutely no way that Dark Zero or Gaveni win that round by coming off the diffuser, you know, by coming off the plant. That's all I can say. You know, it did look like Secret had gone the wrong way. You look.
They were going for the other side.
There was, I think, there was another player coming from elevator side,
and he was going down the corridor.
Yeah, so there was possibly an opportunity for Gaveni to complete that. And the thing is, if you complete it, you never know what's going to happen. You know, come off, get yourself ready to shoot straight away. Just stranger things have happened.
Even if it's 1 in 50 that you win, it's still
1 in 50 sometimes.
Exactly.
You know, that's it. And so for me, there's no point letting go of the plant button. There's
not for a bit of KD and stats on CGG.
Not for the sake of KD. Just keep a hold of it. Get the diffuser down. If you get killed before that happens, fine. But you know 100% by letting go of it, you're losing the round. So you're just choosing to lose the round at that point.
That's it. You're surrendering it, you're throwing it away, but we move. Here we go onto the defensive side, and this was what I was excited to see. The difference in the Solus use and what the attainment is. Already, 2 drones gone for Team Secret, make that 3. And again, I know it feels like a real moot point just to keep on counting these things that are gone. It's not the end of the world, I know. But versus Dark Zero had all 10 left alive. Secret are down to 6 inside 15 seconds.
We're going to have the speed rush coming in here. We've got Astro just trying to support Kendrew on the Monty to get inside a server, but NJR is there using smoke canisters inside the first 30 seconds. He's blown the Goyo canister. He's having to throw everything at this to keep them out.
And Pamba finds Groovy as well. That was up top. That's the problem again with being flanked and not having any idea exactly what's going on here. Secret have gone in blind, really tried to make the Monty work, but behind smokes, behind Vulcan canisters, Secret now have given Dark Zero a lot of time to adapt.
They have. That's the positive here of NJR's play in Dirt Tunnel. That's going to be his final smoke canister, so he's going to have to start thinking about potentially getting back to site. We're going to have a nade going in there just to keep him away on the shotgun. He's low health now, but he is going to commit to this fully as the Monty starts to push in. He's not interested in Kendrew, and he's just looking around the back because he knows that it won't take much, Des. 1 pump, 2,
oh my God,
and 3. No! Somehow Kendrew manages to hit him with the drop shot, and that is going to take NJR out, but not before the damage is done. What a play from NJR.
Dark Zero have just completely shut this round out as well. I appreciate what Secret were going for. A little bit of a cheeky surprise in your first attack, hoping to catch them off guard, but Dark Zero are used to their hijinks. Looking here, I think, to try and make a plant go down, but simply not going to have the opportunity, not when there is a Solus stood in gold bars. She is the new Pulse, feeding all this juicy information over about when the plant starts to go down.
Just going to have the drone work going on to...
Yeah, we are going to have the drone work going on. Thank you very much, Tim and Des. It's kind of funny that we've just seen a little bit of bank between an EU team and an NA team, because where are we going? Where are we going, James Stepmother?
Let me just double check that. Oh, we're going to bank.
And we have a map 3 in this showdown. 2 maps, 2 overtimes, 2 comebacks against... I'm going to say a lot of odds. Not all odds, but a lot of odds. And, well, this Clubhouse was same of the same. Heroic. They were able to be the ones that eked themselves onto the match point at first and series point. But then, since then, M80, they found 4 rounds in a row. And they found a little bit of fire that they'd been missing earlier on in the showdown.
This game started with some really strong attacks. I mean, it was the name of the game was attacks all the way through, and it looked like Heroic was going to take the 2-0 before a beautiful clutch and comeback from M80. Massive credit to these guys of what they managed to pull through, and they were fired up. Kino at top of the scoreboard, at least for here, 13-9, rocking those support roles. Always lovely to see, and it's something actually you mentioned at the very start of this game, right? When Kino is your support player, when these 5 M80 players are the ones you're going up against, you know there's no free kills any round.
Oh, no, and that's always the thing is, you sort of talk about the modern game. You talk about where Siege is in comparison to how it is, because we're both old fogies. We've been around the block. We've been around the scene for a while now. And once upon a time, the support player was supposed to stay behind the lines as best as possible and get the job done. They were fantastic at it. However, the modern game, the modern age, the modern Siege, they have to be able to shoot back. And Keynote definitely ticks the boxes. So when he is still sort of at the top of the board, it's sort of a little bit of worry in some regards, because you want to see DS pop off, you want to see the other players pop off, but at the same time, at least you know that as a backline, they're still going to be pretty terrific.
Now, that said, we talked a lot about Diaz, and as you can see from his stats here, he's actually somewhat overshadowed by Noodle, who isn't even necessarily the best player from Heroic overall this series. Diaz coming into this match was the highest rated player in Six Invitational so far, and so we expected great things. We expected some serious hero plays, and he hasn't really necessarily delivered. Not to, you know, rag on him or anything like that, but it's not like we have seen individuals from M80 showing up with massive multi-kills, massive clutches. They have been the better team for the most part when it comes to strategy and teamwork, and it's Heroic who have been looking a bit desperate, looking to really lean into players like Noodle to, for example, go down main stairs with Nock and find a sneaky kill in Moto. When it's players like Doom going for aggressive spawn picks or aggressive entries, this is more something that we're akin to Heroic rather than M80.
It does put the pressure on at this point. Obviously, it's the last possible map of the day that you can be playing outside of the series on the opposite stream. It is the longest that you can run yourself into the ground here, and it is a high-impact game. It takes a lot to get through a brawl. It takes a lot to get through a single game itself. Put in 2 overtime maps in a row, both teams having to pull off pretty big comebacks from the momentum being away from them. You know, if 80% of energy is getting you to their 100% and you're losing, to get past the 100, you got to hit 120. And there's only so long that you can sort of burn that for, and whoever gets the lead in on this next map, if it is one that I think is a little bit further than the others, I think it might tell a slightly different story to the first 2 we've had.
And as you said, 2 overtimes into a map 3 is nothing to scoff at. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And the team that will take it is the one that has the best long-term form, the one that hasn't used up all their juice in maps 1 and 2. I mean, even just looking earlier at what we saw from Yoga in his tactical timeout, he was using it to have a stretch. It's been a long game, but it must end here on Bank as we go to the final map between M80 and Heroic.
Okay, hey, it's the best of 1 now. Whoever plays the best on this map is going to be the one that takes it away. I am really curious to see if anybody can get a more solid defense. Bank does offer some, but to be honest, I don't think the map actually truly matters right now. I think the truest story that can be told is, more importantly, one that is wrapped around the idea of who can just pull it together, because both teams have struggled. Hey, who's that first ban from M80?
Yeah, it's a knock, and I'd quite like to see that. We saw Noodle manage to do a little bit of damage with that knock on the previous map. Heroic to get rid of the Kaid does change the landscape a little bit, rather not making that Thatcher quite an impactful operator, not as necessary operator. I wonder if the Mirror is going to stay in, because we saw a lot of Mirror on map 1. It was banned out in the second map, and Mirror does have her place on Bank, particularly for that basement, but can be leveraged on multiple other sites. In fact, she will remain in, and the Azami instead, also an extremely powerful operator on Bank, will be taken out. I think that means we're going to see things like Pulse, like Solus, like Mirror played quite a lot on this defensive side.
As you may have heard before we switched on to this from the other stream, even Tim, Ace of Pyrite Lever, said, Solus, she's like the new Pulse.
It's true.
And it is true. The way that she's been used, because we obviously got a little taste in the open qualifiers, the closed qualifiers. We saw the last chances come together, and teams were cautious with utilizing her because, well, she's powerful. And there's no sort of 2 ways about it, especially as demonstrated throughout this tournament. That is an operator you don't see too much, the Kali.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, Heroic have time to repick, and yeah, unfortunately, as you're getting a little bit excited, it's a bait there from Noodle is actually going to go repick. But just to talk about Bank for a moment, so, well, Heroic have actually had some really mixed performances on this map, and that's, to me, quite a concern. If we look historically, yeah, the most recent time they played it, they beat out Outsiders. It was a very close 8-7 against Outsiders, who are not currently the greatest team ever, so perhaps that's not a great result. And you look further back and it's just loss after loss, even to national level teams like 10-Star, Coalesce, and going back further back in history, just real mixed results. So I'm a bit scared for Heroic on this map because M80 on the other hand, you know, despite the 1-7 loss to Space Station in Stage 3, they have 7-1s over Rogue, 7-5s over NIP, 7-4s over Dalmon. This is a great map for M80.
They're hunting for the player. Oh, they find a lot of damage to Yoga, who can try and slip out of there. Spirits was there as well, and I don't think an Echo can move too fast, so they got to try and hot-foot it out. It was a very quick approach there, and, you know, they seemed like they were still doing a bit of setup. They weren't entirely in positions to play the rotate. They weren't entirely in positions to try and shoot back. They were sort of caught, I think, a bit, not slack, but I guess this is the difference. Heroic there for the first time in this sort of straight-down opening on their attack. This is nothing that we've really seen from them across the board so far, and it sort of might tell a different story if they're the ones to get a real big lead. If they can try and do what they've done on their attacks before, it puts a different level of danger on M80.
I'm quite liking this setup from M80. It's an extended roam here in Kitchen and in open area with the castles, enabling Spirits, but he is, of course, the first one to go down. Heroic play this very well, dismantling the push, removing his cover, and cutting off his escape. The downside of losing Spirits is you've lost control of your yokai drones.
Yeah, as I said, Echo, he's not a quick boy. Even with his sort of tactical, cool shorts, These days,
he's actually a lot faster than he used to be. I believe he's a 3-speed now, so...
Really?
It's either 3 or 2-speed. Let me check this for you. I'm going to fact check myself.
Definitely used to be slow.
He was a 1-speed, and very recently they buffed him. I don't understand why Echo needs to be a faster operator when he's meant to be on his drone, but I'm just...
You scroll, I'll talk.
I'm looking this up.
The pressure's coming on the hatches. They're smashing their way open through the castle hand first and getting themselves the stretch towards the reveal inside. They've fallen themselves back, and the jury says...
Echo's a 2-speed.
Still quite slow for a roam that started
you can't say
on
that.
The top floor with a utility that you kind of want in the dying throes of this, because you know where to expect the plant, and those drones in garage around the maneuverability that can be offered on this map, I don't think it's where you want your Echo to be the first point of call.
Well, there's plenty of other forms of plant denial here available. 2 C4s and 2 gas remaining for M80, and Heroic really have to get a wriggle on for this execute. It's a Volt take, C4 goes out, and Yoga can just look straight through this smoke. There's actually no one, it was a bait after all. Grizzly's made his way down into elevator, another player as well, but less than 10 seconds to go. M80, all they've got to do is hold the line. But Heroic have found some magic, no diffuser to speak of. But what am I watching right now? Is that a team kill?
There was a team kill.
And the round ending on time. So if you're as confused as I am, I can confirm that round was won by M80.
Yeah. I think Heroic technically got the last kill, but...
They didn't get the last laugh, though.
They didn't get the last laugh. No. And the time was a problem there, and... You know, they sort of got very quick there on the top floor. They almost had a fight with 2 different people. If they'd won the kill, maybe it would have been a different story. And I said it felt like M80 were taken a little bit by surprise there, but the surprise was theirs at the end. The Heroic then slowed quite a lot down, tried to work out how they wanted to break across the basement, had all the intel on the top 2 floors, but if you don't know what's going on underneath, well, it turns into a very bad surprise party.
I'm going to speculate, I don't know for sure, I'm going to speculate that they saw the smoke playing in blue and they decided it would be too difficult to clear. I didn't actually see, we weren't really watching that part of the map, but the fact that Heroic ended up executing through, well, they opened up the vault hatch, they didn't drop it, they dropped the elevator hatch. It's quite unusual, and it's very risky because it's very difficult to get a plant position. You have to move quite deep into sight, whereas typically default, people go for server takes. But of course, you need to clear out blue stairs. Heroic hodgepodge to plan, it didn't quite work. Now, Spirits and the rest of M80 are going to move over to the open area and staff room bomb site. I like that we've got the Valk in the game. see if we can enable some plays by M80. Early on, Heroic have shown a bit of a change of tack. They found a nice early pick. They're using this line and this Flores to clear out util inside, to find these players' positions, and then they've got the Monty to be the hammer to the anvil.
There's only really Dyers left inside the site right now, and they're going to pull themselves a little bit further back. Yoga's offering some swing support and gets the top of your Monty, who hadn't got the shield up, entirely caught out. The E1D stops it, but if you've brought a Montaigne, you've brought an idea. And now he's gone, and so's the kit, stuck on the far opposite end, and it's a very dangerous recollection. A very important take back there for M80. Slows the pace down, slows the approach down, and Sloth, he's got to look down as he enters here. If the frost mat is still below him, there's a couple of those tuckered around as Kino just does some structuring to go, okay, well, we got a breather.
There's a huge amount of avenues onto site now, clearing out this position inside of staff room, and Noodle's gonna straight up entry. Gotta be careful. Opening up this much of site does make retaking much more possible. And with Yog getting one more kill, it's gonna make it even more unwieldy here for Heroic. Noodle really needs to have an impact here on this entry.
They haven't been able to recollect the kit. They're sort of idling either side of it and seeing if they can get a scrap. They've buried themselves in. Grizzly's got the kit, and then they've got the pop-up on the lockdown. There's a couple of smokes right on the door. Grizzly's going for a wider rotate, gets a kill. He's been pretty consistent at that. Sloth inside. Does he know someone's to his right? Well, now he knows everyone's all around him. Pops up. Cannot find it.
No!
Oh, tragedy has struck. Sees the next fight. Stuck in a corner. Everybody's all around him.
Not like this.
That's fish in a barrel.
I chilled so bad.
Man,
bro, what the fuck is...
That was a bit of a choke from Sloth. He said it himself. Heroic did not have the teeth to sink into that round.
Let's go, please. Time out.
Timeout.
Okay, boys, I already stopped it. Like, look at me. What I said is, look at me. And look at your fucking leader right now. He's the only one. I hear you guys come a little bit here and there. He's the only one fucking steering you like puppets. What happened to initiative? What happened to going for opportunities? What happened to fucking talking together and saying, you come with me. Let's fucking go. Let's go kill this guy. Let's rotate. Let's do something. Are you just waiting for this man to fucking lead us? Come on. We're 5 people in the team. We cannot win this game if we're gonna do shit alone and wait for fucking orders. We need to come with initiative. We need to bleed for it, boys. I don't fucking see blood coming out of the ears. Let's fucking go. Let's want this now. Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go, boys. Come on. Yeah.
Even I feel energized after that. I feel like I can go to war.
Can we get Murat to just like give us a motivational speak at the start of each
battle. Damn.
This is like some Aragon level stuff. Return of the King.
There's the edit. I'm energized now. Okay, Murat, I'm going to bleed from the ears for you. You hope Heroic might do the same as well. This happening after round 2, I think he's seen the problem, and that is there's this lack of coordination. 5 kills over 2 rounds. They haven't quite been able to get the snappiness, most notably from Doom and Noodle. You have to remember how good they were on the attack before, how important it is that they end this on at least a positive, and even half, and things get very dangerous.
Well, M80 going to a 3rd different bomb site now. It's Teller's Archives, and the telltale signs of some upstairs setup, shield in the stock hallway. No reinforcements on the stock walls, though. Those reinforcements quite scarce when you're extending so ambitiously.
Attackers are moving
I wonder, yeah, okay, we are going to get some reinforcements here. So this is more akin to what you would expect out of a CEO-like setup, where you've got feet holes on the stock jump in, you've got reinforcements on the stock walls, and a power position setup enabled by that shield. Rotations from janitors into CEO, and it looks like CEO is where the attack begins for Heroic as Noodle is on that rappel.
That's it. It's a bit of a dicey site to hold on to this because all of it is soft above. There's nowhere you can comfortably pull yourself back into and retreat, and there's the fun use of the Echo drones, reading, rolling out. I love this, and this is why I say protect your Echo, because on a map like this, you do things like that. Hop out the window, draw the attention, almost find the next. Please don't tell me he escapes. Oh, he's escaped. Gomez gets a big kill, gets Noodle off the board. A big player shut down quite early on. And that is a very devastating opening minute.
Yeah, I'm loving the strat that we see from so many teams these days where they get that yokai drone, they put it in the little drone hole, and they start peeking outside of that balcony, enabling these jump outs. It was absolutely worth it for that early advantage here for M80. Now playing without Noodle, without one of their primary entries, Heroic will desperately try and piece together some map control, but it's difficult with this extended setup from M80 up top.
That's it. You try and prod an angle and you don't really know where you're being watched from. Sloth repelling this.
This is ambitious, man.
I mean, this is terrifying. This is never really seen, and if it's rewarded, oh, not quite. They might think it's coming from the windows. It's not anywhere that you really set yourself in. Even Spirits, I think he thinks it's down at the door because you don't look to the skylight because usually it's suicide.
Hang on a second. Uno, I believe, is that him? He's made his way all the way up to Banana. Does just drone up red now. Spirits spotted. Very dangerous position for Uno to try and march up these stairs. There's barbed wire right at the top. That'll reveal his position. But here we go. Second player to come and support him. Spirits gets the audio call. He gets the down. He gets them both. And Heroic once again falling apart. M80 look like they've got the round in the bag. Joom and Grizzly try and put something together. And Joom's the first one to find a kill here for Heroic in the round. 30 seconds left. Spirit still alive, still up top.
Oh, no.
He can take down Grizzly with the bailiff. It's all on Joom now. Time to ace up or go bust. Bust it is. M80, 3 rounds straight.
3 rounds in a row, and smiles we haven't seen on this team's faces during a game for a while. And to be fair, they've earned it. As I said at the start of this, defense is the telltale heart of this game. If it beats for one team, you assume the other will go mad with the floorboards, and it seems like they are hitting your head against it and trying to find the source of woe. 3 in a row, M80, that is just devastating. And it is Bank, it does play well to defense, I know this. But neither of these two teams have played Bank well, played defense well today.
It's true. Look, honestly, I would have expected more from Heroic on this attacking side, especially on the back of that beautiful inspirational speech from Mr. Officer and that tactical timeout. They don't have another tactical pause throughout the rest of this game. They've used it. It's gone. And so it doesn't matter from here on out. Even if they are to push to a 3-3 half, then they got to switch on to the defense and hope that they can nail down a few. We've had 2 overtime games where Heroic have been fired up. By far, the more energetic of these two teams. And while that can work in their advantage, I wonder if that candle has burned at both ends just for a little bit too long and they're starting to run out of steam.
I mean, you know, we're 5 hours different than what we are in EU. At this point, I would be well tuckered into bed.
Mate, you're telling me I'm 16 hours different from my time
but
zone.
you're not playing a game.
Yeah, I know, but I just wanted to remember.
We know. So it's obviously one of those things where you're trying to get into the swing, and maybe I'm just painting a dramatic picture, probably, but it's still one worth noting that it's a long, long day of Siege. The first fight, they drop out of there. They're not going to take it quite intently. They pull themselves back. The roam game from M80 this time round is definitely more prepared for the approach of Heroic.
I mean, I'm glad to see that Heroic have Joom just confident, marching forward, going for these early plays. The scary thing is he's kind of solo. There's no drone ahead of him right now. There's no player to refrag him. Well, as I say that, Sledge makes his presence known. There's a lot of work still to be done in the round, though, for Heroic. Even though they have started to peel back that first layer, they've taken down top floor control. The site is down in the basement, and M80 are once again going for this extended hold with the castle strategy. And Spirits is, as a result, allowed to stay in Staffroom for a very long time.
Yeah, it's slower. It's steadier. It's something that, to be fair, if we go all the way back to border, that was what they said. The aggression isn't working. We've got to be more together. We can take them. Now, this map is 30 times the size of border. You can fit so many little borders in here, perhaps the top of Bank. And that's one of those problems that might come back to haunt them, because time has sometimes been a bit of an issue with Heroic's executes. They seem to have a steady on. Spirits is still tucked on the side of open. Sloth's going to see if he can get the drone and the reveal on the player who's just further and further back. But look at the time. There's a minute here. And they've got to really try and get this first kill. The pings come through. The spray against Spirits. He's now tucked behind a hard wall. He can buy himself another 10 seconds. There's a player. There's 2! Downs the back on the end as well. The swing of the sledge. He confirms the kill first. And that is just catastrophic.
Who needs the P90 when you're that much of a god with the SMG-11? Spirits might have been traded, but he was worth his weight in gold. Now, Heroic, last time, they didn't go for this server push. They desperately dropped the back hatches. Well, this time they have a little bit more legs to their push, but they don't have the players. And look at the plant denial that M80 have available.
2 smokes still left in pocket, 2 C4s in a whole lot of pain. They're stacked up in gold, they've got the width all the way to garage. There's been no congestion or test on the opposite end of this. Once again, they're just throwing themselves into the fire, and that man can see right through it. Uno, he's gonna see if he can sneak. The plant is just covered, but not enough by guns, and the C4 locks it out. 4 rounds in a row for M80, and this is getting tougher and tougher.
For M80, they are fired up right now. They have control of this game. Not only did they play that late round to perfection, but you can't deny the impact Spirits had on that roam. Heroic tried to play more conventionally. They tried to do a thorough map control take. They tried to address this hole with the castle inside of staff room and open area. And when it's only a single player that they're trying to clear out. With the SMG-11, a secondary weapon. There's 17 bullets in that thing, and he sprays down 2 players with 1 magazine? Sometimes players just have those rounds, and when it can turn the tide of a match, when it can have an impact on the opponent's mental, that's when you look at a moment in the game and you're like, that's when Heroic died, and that may well be the round. They need to get back on the horse right now.
Yoga and Diaz, between the pair of them, 8 and 0. They have not died as a pairing across the board as of yet. There is just an ominous nature of that is impossible to sort of circumvent. There's a problem, quite obviously, and how do Heroic break through it? You know, we've seen the tag timeout, we've seen the conversation. They cannot have anything else unless they force M80 to pull one themselves. But at this point, M80 are only pulling one thing, and that's a map, so they can get themselves into bed at this rate.
Well, they certainly won't be satisfied. Perhaps they'll stay awake at night thinking about this game if Heroic go down with, after the phenomenal performance that they have shown, especially on map 1, 6 rounds in a row they managed to achieve against M80. And here, to go down like this would be an embarrassment, would be a real shock to the mental, rock the confidence.
Oh no, Yoga waiting, watching up white. Doom gets the first, something not said too often, and Sloth is about to pounce into the lion's den. And is he aware? Well, slowly actually, he might be aware of other things. Kino gets caught out, Noodle's able to find one, and this is a rare windfall that we've got on the side here. Noodle suffers a bit. They're not going to take the hatch drop. They're not going to take the skylight. They've instead rethought that and said, we've got a man advantage. We don't need to throw ourselves really into this that aggressively.
It's a good start from Heroic here, and it may be their best chance of getting around on the board. A reinforcement there on the hatch in stock. That gives Heroic an avenue to drop onto site. As they have this numbers advantage already, really, they just need to start locating these players. They might be able to start pushing for an execute before too long.
All the hatches are open. Grizzlies looking for some work to do, but with a minute 20, this is how you have to try and capitalize for everything that's gone away from you for this game. If this round does, I think that would spell potentially the end of Heroic's mental throughout this series. Diaz, he's stepping back in. Noodle steps back louder. They're looking for the first engagement. Sees the take, gets the first. Can they find the second? There it is. Drives back into sight. Gomez hops into cans in corner. You're still looking at a lot of time here. They still have the man advantage, but it's suddenly gone from the 5 versus 2 to the 2 versus 3. A much more palatable taste for M80.
I think Diaz has been misdroned. He snuck his way behind the printer just outside the window, and there's a drone. I don't think it saw him. Where is Uno? He drops down the hatch, and Diaz is left to his own devices. He finds the double, but Heroic nonetheless salvage the round. Doom pulls them over the line when it's needed, and finally they break this spell. They find their first round on bank.
Next round, come on.
That was almost disaster. That was almost the 2 versus 5 turned into a 1 versus 1 with a missed drone in the dying seconds. Oh no. It's still worrisome Heroic, they scrape around. They might find a second here, but they need to do it with a confidence that they're missing because they've still got their weaker half to go.
Yeah, really, a 5-1 here would be just as devastating for Heroic as the 6-0. It looked like potentially on the cards before they finally broke through and found a round there. Heroic need to make sure that they can close out this second round to finalize the fact that the half, even though we know M80's got it in the bag, Heroic need to make sure that they can get every advantage they can going into their unfavored side, as you said, on that defense. Now looking at M80, they're not going to go back to open area staff room. They've gone back up. Well, actually, they've gone. Oh, sorry, yeah. I thought they'd gone up top for a second. They went tellers and archives. And the thing is, last time, this was a really convincing round for M80, despite Heroic having just taken a tactical timeout.
Oh, it was tragic for the side of Heroic. Caught out at the very beginning by the Echo drone, rolling its way outside and getting the free pick on the windows. The change here, I mean, they'll see if they put some attention elsewhere. They have a couple of drones in place. There is still so much intel, and we haven't massively talked about it, but you've been looking at a pretty consistent pairing of the Valk alongside the Echo. They're playing these big spaces. Yeah, pre-fires on the corners there. Gomez doing a bit of damage, but at least they can prove that Diaz and Yoga can die. Though Diaz did get 4 kills in the past round. Almost an ace clutch then that would have been.
Yeah, it would have been. It was incredibly nuts. Heroic have made some really good progress here. Look at the ground they've managed to take. Noodle inside of open area. I believe there must be a rotate there in admin into site. Joom's also made his way up the main stairs. And so Heroic wait patiently, cutting off in these lurk positions, seeing if they can find any players rotating. Sloth also in bot square earlier, might be damaging. You can see M80 are so wary of these positions.
Oh, a bit of a miss throw there. The grenade didn't quite get the reach that it wanted, and that's always going to be a warning bell to the player playing around the stacks that maybe you need to take a step away from the window. In this, though, Noodle stacked up underneath it just wants the drift, and to be honest, a couple of these have slightly slipped away, and Kino's going to go hunting to see if there is the player underneath in the position. The drone rolls on through, doesn't quite get the connection. There's the rotate on the hatch, still no time. The grenade doesn't quite get the impact. He's so close to the site wall as well, and it's this cause for concern. Oh, there is Kino! Winning it out top to bottom, rocks Noodle, and the pressure comes behind it, but Gomez is the one that puts a stop to it, finds Sloth. Joom, he's not entirely sure which way he wants to go. Uno's trying to think about it, pushes in the smoke into Diaz's waiting arms, who stacks himself up on the opposite end. And well, they were so close to the fire the whole time. At some point you expect to get burnt, but here, from that to this, a 5 versus 2, almost a 5 versus 1, there it is. Grizzly would have to ace clutch.
It's not going to happen for Heroic. M80 have been beautiful on this round, stealing their nerve on this vertical hold. Kino above, opening up with a beautiful flick. And Heroic just waves crashing on the cliffs, having absolutely no impact. Grizzly looking for a consolation frag and finds absolutely nothing. A flawless round is quite a way for M80 to go up 5-1 on their defense.
Hello! He was in mini.
We still continue the trend of coaches being the most vocal members. Just imagine Mr. Officer and Vivus on the opposite sides of a football pitch.
I think we need to settle this with an arm wrestle after the match is over.
Bear fight.
Well, yeah, if we can. Can we televise that?
Probably not legally. Lockers! We head on down to Heroic. My, we have a lot of work ahead of us at this point. Over the past 2 maps, do you want to know how many defensive rounds Heroic have won?
Have you calculated this?
Oh, no, I've got it ready.
All right, what is it?
4.
Okay. Heroic are not in on the defense, is that what you're telling me?
They haven't been today, and that's that sort of risk. That's that sort of problem right now. And to be honest, M80 were the same. If they weren't, we wouldn't have had 2 OTs. That's just how the nature of math works.
Amazing.
I know.
I've heard about math. Here's some for you.
Yep.
The last 2 times that Heroic have played Bank, they only have won 36% of their defensive rounds compared to 46 on the attack. So you think their attack's left a little to be desired. Just you wait until they switch on over to this defensive side. To their credit, some fantastic ingredients. ready to be cooked up into a storm here. Mira, Solus, and the Valkyrie, all fantastic information gathering for denying plant. We also have plenty of C4s to assist Heroic in the late round. And I expect to see these Valkyrie cameras being used to enable some flanks. Now they've been used to spot out that Kino has in fact brought this Montaigne, and M80 may be going for a rear take.
Diaz wanting to not only just prove that he's number one, but he's 11 to 1 at this moment in time. The whole team of Heroic put together has 12 kills. If there is anything that exemplifies a player stepping up when they need to, my word, you want Diaz on your bench. He has really come in to that number one setting he had at the start of the day, and he's hoping that after the previous 2 maps, he can end the day in the same place. Grizzly, he's in a pretty tight spot. He's got to get out of there. He has no other choice at that point. When a Monty is that close to the face, you just got to pull back. Hey, remember when you talked about Monty always being banned?
Well, not so this time. Noodle, though, does manage a flank. The Monty doesn't try an ADS. Does mean that Noodle is now being hunted down. The Monty calling out his position, but he's going to be able to drop this hatch if he decides to do so. He wants a bit more before he goes for it. But eventually he does. That's a heck of a lot of damage to do onto Kino, though. So huge play with the C4. Takes him low. There's no smoke in the lineup, though, which is typically one of the best ways to counter this Monty in the late round.
Yeah, a couple more C4s, they might be able to use a couple of impacts to do some damage as well. And as you said, with what has already been done to him, that's a much more dangerous prospect at this point in time, especially when he's the one with the kit. We talked about it in the first round when the Monty went down. If you lose them, you've lost a strategy, you've lost a play. It is exactly the same premise. If he's there for a reason.
Hang on a second. What's Doom doing all the way upstairs?
Having an adventure.
Come on, Sam, we're going for an adventure. Doom's gone all the way to the top floor. These hatches still remaining closed. There are some vertical lines of sight, but he's also got the Solus, so he can spot out any players droning, any on their cams. Now the info that Kino has dropped all the way down into elevator. Heroic might be able to, no way! There is no way Diaz was watching that. He simply knows. And now M80 are going to execute into the 4v3. There's nothing for it. Perhaps a C4 can salvage it, but Noodle's going to need more than that. The plant going to go down now. Kino forcing it inside of lockers. Diaz now easily covering 12 kills to his name. The stuns to put Noodle back in his place. But in the post plant, Uno does find the first step. Noodle as well. It's Kino in the 2v1, make it a 1v1! Noodle, no C4 in the 1v1 against the Monty. One of the most unenviable positions, but out of nowhere, he gets the knife, and he's going to be able to defuse.
Wow. I think we might be looking into that in a second.
I have never seen that before.
I have.
Come on, boys.
And
let's get this. Let's go.
I mean, you saw the reaction in all chat. There's not much I have to say at that point, but there's a reason that we're on a pause right now.
It's not my jurisdiction, fellas.
No, this is so far out of our jurisdiction. So,
bro, we really fucking won that round. Like, you can't kill the Monte.
Yeah, I mean, we can only sort of sit there. You understand why it's been paused, though. I assume everybody does.
No comment.
No, we legally, you and I, we don't make it.
Cannot speak.
We're just fun, silly voices.
If I speak, I'm in trouble.
We're just fun, silly voices for the late night video game tournament. We don't make these calls.
So the admins will be discussing what has just occurred and what they think about that round. One thing is for sure, though, that was quite a round. The fact that M80 managed to pull off that back push, despite Heroic having that roamer still at large of Doom, was impressive, to say the least.
So he was looking down. You have to look down. I saw him looking down, and I was like, oh, he's using the.
Hopefully, be back in sooner rather than later.
You can't count.
You know, we'll just talk about this for now.
He's just gonna kill you. Like.
I like that they're taking photos as well. Great time to take photos of M80 right now. You're going to get some funny looking angry faces.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're where we're at. We're in this situation. We'll hopefully be resolved sooner rather than later. As soon as we can tell you something, we will tell you something. I think that's the better move. We'll let the referees have their conversations in private. Obviously, there are discussions that need to be had, and they will be had. And I think it's only right that we aren't listening in on to that. But as soon as we know what's going on, we will let you know. Okay, so we still see what was a good execute there from M80.
Oh, yeah. It was a very good execute from M80.
The catch on the flank as well was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious whether they had a drone top main stairs or whether it was just a read, whether it was an audio call. Regardless, it was very impressive for Diaz to be able to take down Doom in that position. And it goes to show as well, since M80 hadn't opened up the hatches on the top floor, it meant that Doom didn't have as many options. He had to force his way down the stairwell. Also, credit to Heroic that round as well. That shouldn't have been as close as it was. I believe it ended up as a 4 versus 2 execute for M80 in the dying moments. And Heroic did bring that back into a 2 versus 1 against the Monty at the end in the post-plant. And in a 2v1v the Monty, that is a very winnable position. Of course, it was played very well by, I can't remember who it was, Kino on the Monty to make it that 1 versus 1. And, well, everything that happened after that, of course.
We know nothing.
Not speak.
I do not speak. I hide under the table. Yeah, it will be a discussion. It will be something for the referees to sort out. That's why we have the referees and the fancy referee shirts.
That's right.
And then we'll be in as soon as we're in, as soon as it all gets called and sorted. I'm not entirely sure how the other game ended up as well on Bank. That was a couple of steps ahead of ours. I think it was the second map. If you want to use your...
I can bring up the old Twitch stream.
Have a quick cheeky look. They're in map 3. Ciano has just told me in my ear.
Okay, well this Twitch stream will be 3 minutes delayed.
Okay, well then we won't cast it.
No, I won't.
Because A, the audience watching us cannot see it, and B, we would be behind the scenes.
Yeah, well.
And our stream will also be delayed, so it's like 6 minutes delayed.
No, well, yeah, yes.
So we are... If you really want a slow response to what is going on.
According to the Rainbow Six Bravo stream, as of right now, they will be back in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
That's pretty cool.
And it doesn't tell me the score of the previous map.
I wonder if anyone got cagged today.
I'm sure it happens. It happens to everyone.
I love that that's become a thing. There's always something at SI. There's always something at these majors.
Good cagging.
That stands out. There's always something that brings itself in, and it's always really around an APAC team.
Oh, yeah. No, we love being the Larrikins, don't we?
They have a theme song. It's so cool.
Yes, actually, the Japanese...
Yeah. If you haven't seen it and you're a happy Kagan, and it's Kagan time, listen to that theme song. They have a theme song. It's called, like, Our Success Voltage. It's very cool. It's like if you could have an anime opening, you would.
Yes, I would love one.
Oh, imagine an anime opening.
Like my own personal one.
Yeah, that you play every single time you come onto desk.
Oh, I was going to say every single time I walk into a room, I just carry around like a Bluetooth speaker.
Nice.
And I just enter the room.
You don't carry it around. You get Parker to carry it around.
Right, okay, yeah. I like it when Parker
Jesse, I went into... Well, we both went into the green room between the maps. And Jesse goes, I never hear when you say I'm American, but people just DM me.
That's such an American thing to say.
You can hear this, Jesse, unless you've muted us in the other room. I think you're American. I think you've been lying about this Canadian thing. I think you pretend to like hockey too much. Or I said it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'm cutting trees.
I do have an update for you, Emmy, though. And according to Liquipedia, Team Secret and DZ, it's 1-1. First map was won by Dark Zero. That was Skyscraper. It was an 8-6. Second map was also an overtime game. Bank and Secret won 8-6. So
wow.
Both the A stream game and the B stream game for both map 1 and map 2 is overtime. Map 3, it remains to be seen here. Of course, we have been seeing Heroic have some success on this third map. Limited success, but some success is technically accurate.
Yeah, if you're unaware what's happening, the referees are just double checking over the end of the most recent round. M80 have obviously raised a complaint about what was used, and that's what the referees are currently in the business of reviewing and sorting out. We will hopefully be in the continuation of this game once they have reached their verdict on what has happened. I'm Yeah, so we'll be with you as soon as we can be with you, and hope that we can get to the end of this and get back into the game.
I am eagerly awaiting with anticipation what's going to happen here. M80 are looking, well, quite stern, and yet trying to conserve their energy. It's worth just relaxing in a moment like this. Things are outside your control.
We're just going to very quickly toss it to the B stream, just to keep you busy as the referees get this sorted. Here's the sultry tones of Des and Ace.
Looking to hit whoever he can as they try and push their way through the top. Has settled down pretty quickly in the round as well, despite that initial bit of aggression that we saw coming on through. Canadian had to work his way through a barricade here, steps in and sees a man, collects him for free. Sleben caught snoozing. And could this be DZ pulling around back in their favour? Maybe not, and Savage gets the shutdown.
I was going to say, you can't let him get away with that easily. They were aware of that position and then just sort of let go of it and allowed him to move on to the flank, but the trade comes out quite quickly. Savage doing a great job, and we now find ourselves in a 2 versus 4 for Dark Zero. Sprayed through the soft wall. Final kills come in, and Team Secret take themselves round 1.
Nice cozy first round. Those first 2 kills that came in quite early on was what they were looking for as well. Really set the tone for the rest of it. And although I know we've seen both teams give away rounds from a lead, it's been less common for Secret throughout the series. So glad to see them still keeping up that trend and being able to close things out from the 5 versus 3.
Moving into round 2, it looks like it's going to be an armory and throne defense for Dark Zero. They're going to move away from lab and storage. Keep it downstairs though, but I'll be interested to contrast and see how much utility and manpower is expended on trying to keep hold of the top floor. It didn't really work out for them last time. Secret were able to go in and sort of sweep them away quite easily, so I would expect to maybe see a little bit less this time.
You'd hope so. Once again, the Solar's being deployed, looking to do a bit of work. Matched up by the IQ and the EE1Ds. I love the use of it in the last round, personally. Mainly used to make sure that we had the Amaro getting into the map safely, but I think here, it works with any of the operators. It helps with those pushes forward. It helps to capitalize on the chaos that DZ come under. Because where they have struggled at points is when we do get Secret coming in at quite some pace. Not through a bottleneck most ideally. You saw this in the last round when they had the Monty rush in their first attacking round on Bank. They were held at bay by the smoke canisters, the Vulcans, for example. All the things working together to slow down what would have been a pretty successful rush, all things considered. But I think the EE1D just helps them again capitalize on that chaos, keep DZ panicking, and really help Secret propel themselves forward to a win. Almost the reverse of what we saw before, where they were focused on Skyscraper on the defensive side of stopping DZ getting to the execute. Here it's kind of accelerating Secret execute to bring it even further forwards and even quicker.
Kendrew sending a drone into sight. I don't think its life will be too long-lived. It's just sat in the corner there. I would expect it to be spotted out, but for the time being, they know that there is the potential for getting in there. I think they're aware that there's a few off-site at the minute. They've managed to run underneath the hatch, but Dark Zero were more than ready for that attempt, and they're going to get 3 kills along the way, and the rush attempt from Secret has fallen apart. We've heard Twister in the timeouts a couple of times speaking about the opportunity to go for rushes and to have the confidence to do it if they think there's an opportunity, and they've obviously listened to that, taken it to heart, but it hasn't panned out this time.
Just got themselves into a spot here where clearly it's fell apart, and truthfully, like, one of my favourite sayings that one of my mentors has is, you have to have a plan to change a plan. There's no plan to change, well, there was a plan to change, but it was over far too quickly, the 3 of them being completely deleted inside of barrels. And once it's all fallen apart from there, well, you can't really change it and look to adapt. A flawless round in the second, so as good as that first round was, negated immediately by the other side.
Dark Zero immediately leveling things up, not allowing things to get too far out of hand. It's going to be 1-1, and honestly, I think this map is going to continue largely in the same trend. I think we're going to have this very close from beginning to end. It's going to be a defensive top floor this time around, so it's going to be Bunk and Daycare that Dark Zero are going to be going to for their 3rd choice site. It's the first time we've seen them defending upstairs, and interestingly, the first time that they haven't brought Solis along. So deciding where they can put, as I said, coming into this, you know, where there is the opportunity to potentially play underneath and play for a little bit of denial with the Solis, it's just a very difficult map to do it on, particularly to keep that operator alive, so choosing not to go for that.
Absolutely. Okie doke. Let's see how round 3 plays out. We've had a strong round from either side so far. Kendrew moving over to playing here on the Monty as well. Had an interesting development in the game a second ago that is currently still being resolved over on Stream A. Hopefully should get back underway pretty soon. Both of our last 2 series are actually going all the way through to the 3rd map, Tim, and quite deep as well.
I think it might be the first night that that's happened.
Yeah. Normally it is wrapped up by now. It's 10, just after 10 PM here, local.
We could well be here for another hour or so, depending how this one goes.
Imagine.
If we see all 12 rounds and it goes to overtime, then it would be around that mark for it to be finished off. We're on the top floor attack this time. Medics is trying to blame us, but personally I blame Medics. It's every time that Medics observes for us, we end up with this much overtime.
Yes. It always seems to follow us 3 around. Astro finding out Skies as well. Smoke, ideally not the one you want to be losing so early into the round. That's the way that it has unfolded this time around. And Secret now with that numbers advantage can look to do what they did back in round 1. Just slow it down, boys. You've got that numbers advantage. Play for those trades. Plan things out once again because you've still got a solid 2 minutes to work with.
Slabin going in with Switchtron, just taking down those default cameras and electronics as he goes. NJR looking on the long angle. It's an interesting rotation that's been opened from site. It's just giving a long angle all the way through. The Monty's going to be pushing into it now, but it's pretty critical that Dark Zero hold on to this location. Quite often that would be the breach that the attackers are looking for, so you've sort of almost given it to them without them having to come in and hard breach. But you need to make sure that you hold on to it.
Absolutely. Slebin here looking to sleuth his way in on the downstairs and see what he can find. It's Astro on the upstairs, though, doing work alongside Savage. Here comes the Monty marching on his way forwards and has gone down to NJR. How on earth has that worked out? Got him on the side of it as well. NJR into a second one, and now has got it to do against 3 players.
Unlikely at this point, despite how good that NJR has been playing so far tonight. He knows that there's one on the left of him. This is going to be a freebie, surely. He knows the peak is coming. He's ready for it. There you go. Sprays him down, leaves him in a 1v2. Becomes a bit more doable, but loses health along the way that he really could have done with keeping. Finds himself on about 30 HP now. Can probably manage 1 bullet at the most, and the second will be the end of him. But if Team Secret give him an opportunity here, there you go. Beautiful from NJR. And he gets the last fantastic 1v3 to finish off it is. What a round from NJR to cap off what has been a fantastic night of siege from him so far.
There's just no way NJR has pulled that off against Secret. Looking at the numbers just developed down, it was a 2 versus 5. For all intents and purposes, a 1 versus 5. As Pamba was off the board quite early into this play, but pulls it off against every single member and ensures DZ have what many would argue wasn't a deserved round. But with a play like that, NJR deserves every single kill along that way.
An ace with a knife onto the Monty included.
Oh.
You don't get many of them. I'm going to tell you that now. You do not get many of those. NJR has been outstanding so far tonight, not just there, but in general. We've mentioned his name an awful lot, not just in terms of frags, but just everything he's brought to the team. He's been a stalwart for Dark Zero so far in this matchup.
Whew. Player of the series, maybe him and Groovy definitely fighting it out to be the top 2. Like 100%. Both have played out their absolute skins as this series has gone by. Of course, good rounds and performances by several other members. I know Canadian, for example, hasn't been up there when it comes to kills, but his Solus play has really dominated the Intel game against Secret. Really excited to see what the end stats look like, because I get a feeling that once again this is going to be another long map, Tim.
Yeah, very possibly. I think, as we've said, it's likely to see a bit of back and forth. We're on another attack here. It's going to be initiation and office this time around. Secret going straight away over to that east side to look at potentially getting in towards Cash and 90 corridor. Quite often we will see a defender stationed in and around 90 corridor, but I don't think that's actually the case for Dark Zero here. So, nope, they're going to give a little bit of access on that control and Cash side. So, just something that they need to be aware of. Now, interestingly, we do have a player underneath. I'm not sure who it is down in armor. I think it could be Canadian on the Legion, but they're going to need to be cautious when approaching, because those traps, you can hear them just pinging off already as they try to move across to push the Roma.
Already being wary of the one player, they've got the ping on him as well. They know that he's sat inside the vault. They know what to be looking for here as well. We've seen a couple of teams struggle. In fact, it was G2 versus Koi when we had this back on day one, when they ignored Spoit, sat inside the vault, and he did really punish them for it across a couple of rounds. Secret here looking a little bit more attentive, given they had that ping down inside of Vault itself. But as looking at the positioning of most of Dark Zero, they are sat quite far back here and almost inviting Team Secret to come pressing on forward, looking for these kills. Two members of Dark Zero expecting a push to come in on the west side, but surely here they start to catch a whiff that actually pretty much every single member of Team Secret is working their way in from the east.
Just going to have a nade coming in over the top of the shield. It's a little shield off there as we've got one facing the other. It's going to be the deployable of the defenders that gets taken out. It allows Secret to start pushing forward, opening that wall a little bit. And this is it. They might well just come running straight in on the back of this. They've got the shield set up. They've got diffuser in hand. And it looks like they might just go and try and get in behind the pillar inside of the initiation room there to put the diffuser down.
Oh, here we go. He's made it as well. There's no one sat watching on the near side. Wants to get the rest of it opened up too, which might make this a little more precarious. Has got in there, maybe can make a plan happen, but he's got to be careful of getting pinged by these players that are super close. Just like that, but what a kill coming in from the side swipe as well. Kendrew might be getting away with this one as well. Plant has been stuck into a 4v3. Great play by Secret.
Absolutely beautiful getting that plant down, Kendrew, with the presence of mind, even when hit by the impact nade, to continue planting. Astro finding Gaveni Pamba can do nothing but try to just get on the diffuser, and it is going to be an easy kill for Team.
Well, thank you very much for our intermission there. I return with my good friend James from Down Under, and two teams and a referee decision. And I will say this once, and then we'll all move on together. The round will be replayed. We are going back to the start of M80's attacking half. So the score is 5-1. I repeat, the round is going to be replayed. And it's the admin's decision. And that's all we'll say on it.
Indeed. Exciting times. Getting back into the game, M80 have been dominant. They went up 5-1 on their defensive side. The only round that Heroic has managed to achieve in this game so far was Doom's 1 versus 2 clutch in open area staff in round 5. And aside from that, it has been M80's game through and through. In the previous time we saw this round play out, it was a very tight affair. M80 started fairly strong, but Heroic managed to get Doom on this big flank upstairs. M80 punished him, and from that onset, it looked like M80 was likely to win the round. They went for a fairly desperate Vault and elevator drop. Kino managed to plant with the Monty. And this time around, it looks like the same operator lineup as for both sides. The question is, will M80 repeat the same style of attack? Will they be going once again for that rear side?
Doom wanted to make a bit of a statement there at the top of the stairs and is going to pull himself back, keeping a keen eye for any drones and other parts and pieces that might be in their way. They have a pretty solid control over the middle, and they're going to see how long they can stick that. In the meantime, the drones, Aquino and Diaz, roll their way through across the big, open, vast space of lobby. Grizzly is once again playing themselves just above the hatch with the soft to give them a little bit more of a heads up as the approach comes round, but Heroic, they weren't quite able to keep a solid control of the rest of the roam and the players before. It seems like M80 are going for a slightly different tact here. Still getting themselves in, probably still going to open the lobby hatch itself. They have more than enough utility between the Hibana and the pocket hard breaches of Kino to do what you really need to do on this side.
And that pocket hard breach indeed will be utilized to open up the vault hatch in lobby. Kino next looking to clear elevator hallway on the first floor. Sloth prepping a C4, aware that Yoga above him is engaging in this vertical play, starting to open up avenues to clear out these Teller's Archives positions. That C4 was actually spotted and baited and did not land a kill, as these roamers are still at large inside of open area.
Look at this, they're going to force the descent, but there are players inside open. The slight impact and, well, they're trying to force the fight here. The drop of the drone, hoping somebody comes in behind. The longer they can kill time here, the more dangerous they can be. Doom suffers a bit. They're playing around that open. Uno's underneath with the C4. There's the reveal, there's the release, but Noodle wins it out first. That was a swing, I believe, from open. And now with the Monty gone first, I talked about how important that can be. The kit is out of hand. The push is slightly out of pocket, and with a minute left, they're going to try and reconvene the faces downwards.
And without that Monty, they don't have information. They didn't even know where the elevator was clear. As we can see, Grizzly has now dropped. But M80 had to waste a couple flashes just to confirm that information for themselves. Spirit's still afraid. Eventually does quickly peek it. See elevators clear. Here's the ringing phone of Grizzly down below. Almost gets caught out by these Capcan traps. As the hatches are beginning to open. Oh my God,
I thought he was going to hit that hard there. He's still kind of tempted by the idea, but look at this pressure from M80. They know that time was becoming a little bit of a factor, so here it comes. The drive, the push, the attempt at the kit down. Spirits does go down though, and that's the worst possible person. Caught out by the impact at the end of it. They're swinging themselves round. They've got to get that recollected. Tucked by the only bit of heart that they have. 13 seconds. A huge take on one side. Yoga looking for the next. The mirror window gets popped. They can't quite win it out. There it is. But now it's a 2 versus 1, and Diaz, he's got the top floor the first fight. It's his to win, a 1 versus 1. A man who has really driven M80 through this fight. They had a bit of a pause, a bit of a play. They bait the roam sloth. He's found 2 so far. He can't quite get the angle for the next 20 seconds. And a little bit of a game of cat and mouse. Who can stick it? Diaz can!
You're dog shit player! Go back to ranked! Your place is not here! Your place is not here!
Good call, Gummy.
You know,
that is what M80 needed.
Insane
I mean, you know when I said in the map too that things are feeling a bit scrappy?
This is personal now.
This is personal now.
What an attack though. Such conviction. M80 sprung into action. They were pretty timid throughout the mid-round. It took them a very long time to clear out that position in elevator from the roaming Wamai, and they lost their Montaigne in the process. It was dire straits, and yet they managed to convert. They managed to, while they managed to retake that open area control, 2 other players went server, and they sprung into action. On the back of those flashbangs, they forced that plant down. Miraculous feat from M80. On the back of that, a 6-1 lead and match point in the series. If M80 win this, they will go up 3 points on the standings. That will put them on 6 above Heroic, or in fact tie with Heroic once Heroic get the single point out of this game. A huge boon for M80's run into the playoffs.
One more round, M80. And I remember at the start of map 2, Kino says, let's get 3 points, boys.
Absolutely.
Seems like they're more than happy to finish off the words there. Diaz just as hot as he was before we had the timeouts. And he looks ready to put this one to bed. Look at this pace underneath the air jab, cutting the rotate off. Obviously, there's a lot of mobility that can be offered on this site. There's those hatches that become quite dangerous. The rotate up the bottom of blue to cause some problems. And, well, his first point of call was, let's stop that.
M80 are filled with confidence. They are very eager to close this game out. They have 5 match points ahead of them. Heroic on this Staffroom defense have a pretty strong setup, particularly that shield that Grizzly is holding on to at the moment inside a Staffroom makes it very difficult for any attacker to clear out his position. Of course, he's vulnerable to those Rotero drones.
Exactly that. Now the first one's popped off. He's got to be very cautious of in front of him and now behind. It's such a dangerous place to play. And here's the second. It's going to go a bit wider. He's focused on one fight at the minute. They get a bit of extra width towards the opposite end. And Doom is the first off the board. There's the shield in the pocket of Spirits this time round. The breach on the wall. Gomez takes a bit of a scrape from range. Used all of his Roteros, and now they got to see if they can try and force this. But there's the rotate underneath. I talked about it before.
Oh, they see it.
It is well watched. Noodle, he's about to find himself maybe caught a bit unawares. I don't know if they truly know, but it's a slow, slow creep.
Who's watching for this? There was the call, but who was watching for this position? Noodle has been droned out, and I don't think they know about it. Diaz to cut him off. But he's afforded quite a bit of flexibility here, peeking inside of blue. Noodle is so patient. And he knows perhaps that he has been droned. He sees the position, but Gomez gets the better of him. We find ourselves in a 5v3 here on match point. as the Lion roars and M80 march toward the bomb site.
Round the back, Diaz gets one, Sloth finds Yoga and at least stems the blood, but it's not for very long.
Let's go!
We couldn't have had a more bitter fight from the start to the end. 2 overtimes and a train running out of steam. There's only so many heroic plays in the Heroes kit, but there sure is a lot going on in M80s.
At the end of the first map, there was no doubt Heroic were fired up beyond anything that M80 could stack against them. By the end of it, there was no fire burning inside Heroic. Utter defeat on Uno's face.
I mean, you gotta remember, the second map, how close they were to being able to have this as a 2-round series. They were up 6-4 on the back of one of the biggest comebacks we've had throughout the whole tournament so far. And then it ends in a map where they were blindsided and overpowered by a team that just had a bit more. There was a lot of heat and a lot of fire. And it ends in this. A couple of points either side of the line in a group that seems scattered with them.
As we can see, the white line fever has cleaned off a little bit as M80 walk by their defeated opponents and, well, wish them a good game. It was a good game, I gotta say. What a match that was. That certainly kept us entertained. A full 3-mapper, 2 overtimes, a 7-round winning streak from Heroic near the start of the game, and for M80 to finish it under those conditions, what a treat.
I mean, my voice is going. I don't know about yours.
You can go to sleep now. We can finally
yeah,
go home.
It's been up longer than I have, but my voice is teetering on the edge, and I'm very excited for the idea of a rest. I don't know if I could have done 3 OTs, but I definitely know I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much for joining me on the desk for this. Hey, you got your 3 maps.
I did. First 3-mapper I've worked so far during the event, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It has been an absolute blast, and, well, I think at this point, it's about time we start running this towards the end. We will take a quick break before we're back with the final desk for the A stream to break it down.
I'm Nicholas Morton, but you know me as Pingu. I'm a 2-time Rainbow Six Siege World Champion and former top Rainbow Six Siege player in Pro League. Welcome to my Siege Ranked Bootcamp. We're talking 20 seconds left on the clock, you got the diffuser in hand, what do? Play the way that you're comfortable with, because you have confidence when you're in this position, that is when you're gonna be at your very best. Good luck.
Well, it took some time, but we have our victor, M80. But what a series. I was on the edge of my seat. Map 186, map 286, map 3. I don't even have words for that, to be quite frank. But Jacob, I mean, that was thrilling to watch.
It was thrilling to watch. Yeah, like you mentioned, it did take us quite a while to get through map 3. But we finally got there. And for the love of God, M80, please don't do this to me. Don't do this to North America. Don't do this to Brazil. Don't let us down the path of thinking that you're going to take things handedly and then take us down a 3-map skirmish like this. Because in spite of getting the victory, other than map 3 being a 7-1, technically an 8-1, it's still a really big problem to see it go this long against a team that we have this many problems to still sort through.
Yeah, Jesse, we were in the green room. We've talked a lot about Joom and Noodle, so I want to talk about Uno on map Uno.
Yeah, Uno had a couple of great rounds, of course. He had that big 1v1 on round number 5. It definitely popped off on border. I think Joom was the star to pull that one back. We'll see, of course, some of his plays a little bit later on in this highlight reel. But him being able to have so many opening picks and turn those into round after round after round in that second half. Heroic, of course, ending border with, what was that, a 6-round win streak? They won that map, Jacob?
Yeah.
Ridiculous how many in a row they were able to convert. And a lot of that came off of just the opening picks, right? Thought it was a great adaptation from them just after a couple of poor attacks coming in from Heroic to be able to turn that on its head, find a lot of those entries, because you're playing on border. It's going to be an attacker side of map. You want to be able to get those consistent good starts to be able to start running over the defense, and I think that they did a good job of that towards the end to close it out.
There was also one round in particular. You remember that 1v1 between Uno and Diaz, where Uno's upstairs just pulls and Diaz is looking frantically trying to find that spot to plant. There's a lot of good moments that came from that border game, but again, it was 6-2, and then suddenly 6 rounds in a row for Heroic come out of nowhere, and everyone wonders what was going on. Then we have to move to a map 2, which also should have probably been Heroic's, given how it was very, very one-sided as soon as we got to the second half, even though it was a 4-2 split, and it looked like M80 were probably going to have the advantage coming out. It took to overtime to get it done. So can M80 still win their group? Absolutely. Is it going to be a nail-biter the whole way? Absolutely as well.
I want to talk about map 2 a little bit more. So that was M80's map pick, and as you were saying, another really tight battle there. M80 just edging out Heroic 8-6. But Jesse, you jokingly called it Choke City in the green room.
I mean, the whole series was Choke City, Jackie. Yeah. This was a game that really highlighted the importance of momentum in a game of Siege, right? People talk about how every round is a new round, and it is, but at the same time, it's not. You have so much riding from one round to another, from the attack timeouts, how much of an impact those have to turn things around for the team versus, how much you can just keep things going after a bad run out or a bad clutch. This map here on Clubhouse saw Heroic go for the longest streak, 4 rounds in a row, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then M80, of course, clutching 4 rounds back in reverse, right, to win the map in overtime. A couple of mistakes towards that end in OT, of course, round 13, Noodle not pushing out of dirt in time with the rest of the team, just miscoordinating that last hold, really tough from him there, and of course, round 14 not exactly going the way they wanted it to. So, Clubhouse was a bit tougher for them in the end, but, at least they had that map 1, buffer it out. Still very entertaining all around.
Jacob, do you think that there was something that M80 did to allow them to just edge out Heroic?
On which map?
On map 2 still.
Map 2, I mean, they were trying some more creative attacks. As soon as we jump into round 7, suddenly there's a Nook in Moto, just walking right down the stairs, killing the Kai directly under the hatch. He can't use his cams anymore, can't use his electric claws. That's something I thought was more of a staple of what Heroic were trying to do. It also does play more on the entry game if they're able to find an opening kill early, and they can control the mid round, give them as much time as possible to then also control the late round. I think that's something that Mr. Officer is already aware of. I think this team is more aware than anybody else that's something that they have to focus on, getting a good start and then also converting that into a good finish. But yeah, Clubhouse was definitely an example of if you're going to start well, if you don't finish strong, you're going to be in trouble.
Okay, talking about Mr. Officer, that transitions into my next point quite well, because map 3, low-key, I want to start off talking about Mr. Officer. That pep talk, all 3 of us were glued to our screen and did not make a peep.
That man would make me run through a wall for him.
You stole that from Twitter.
I did. Thank you, Jazzman.
If he was on the scoreboard, he'd be at the top there.
Agreed.
His team, unfortunately, didn't really use that speech that he gave at the end of round 2 to turn it into anything. They lost, 2 rounds in a row after that. They didn't really seem to find their footing. I liked the tack timeout being called so early because clearly M80 were using that momentum towards the end of Clubhouse and bringing it right into bank, right? What Mr. Officer was talking about was how slow Heroic were moving, right? They were just sitting around waiting for M80 to do something and to give them that opportunity, and it just wasn't happening. But then if you notice the change, right after that tack timeout, do M80 keep doing the same thing? No, they're jumping out of windows, Jacob. They're going hyper aggressive, and they immediately throw that off balance. I think if they had kept playing the same playstyle, if they sat around, gone a little bit slowly, I think the tack timeout would have worked for Mr. Officer, but it was just that counter adaptation to come back in from M80 to keep that ball rolling for the momentum that I think really was a great call by the team.
Biggest thing about momentum too, we have to go through that whole rehost. And yeah, we can't ignore the fact that it happened, but M80 don't allow that to snowball. It doesn't suddenly become, wait, all of a sudden we have to, reset everything, jump right back into the lobby, try to figure out where we were after so long not spent playing in the lobby. They get right back in, they win their next 2 rounds straight, and they decide no matter what happened before, it's in the past, it's not something that we need to concern ourselves with in the present, and 2 rounds immediately back-to-back means, well, this bad boy's over. They don't have, it's not something that you have to dwell on. They were probably dwelling on it in the moment, maybe considering what the hell are we meant to do, but they didn't let it become a bigger problem, and that I think is a really strong sign of a good team mentality. And the opposite side for Heroic, if you've got that much time, do something more effective with it. That is time for you to figure out what the primary issue is. If it's communication, mentality, the way you're approaching the game, whatever, it's the inverse of the way that M80 had to respond to that much time usage.
I just zipped my lip. I was like, I'm gonna let Jacob take this one.
All great points, honestly. He's absolutely right.
Yes, okay, but let's look ahead to the future. So this is M80's. This was not too bad for them. So I'm thinking they're looking pretty good right now. Jacob, you've been kind of on their hype train. How you feeling about their future?
Look, so yes.
Look,
Heroic did
okay.
start the day in first in the group, but only by a little sliver.
Okay.
And now they have another loss like this under their belt. They do have 1 more point, which means they're at 6, but M80 now also are at 6, which means they've got the same amount of points. There's only a little bit of a round differential skew that separates the 2 of them. And we're at a point where M80, all they have to do is beat a Dark Zero team that they've played several times in the NAL and a Team Secret who we still don't really know how they're going to do. Is there a chance that M80 can still win their group? 100%. It's right there in front of them.
Still on that train. Okay, and Jesse?
Yeah.
Heroic has FaZe next. That's going to be a test for them.
That will be a fun one. I'm honestly really excited to see what shape FaZe are coming into that because, of course, they had such a disappointing first game for them, losing to M80, as Jacob will remind us all. And then they came back, beat Dark Zero. Now they play Heroic, who themselves are in a bit of a tough spot. These are kind of the 3 top teams in the group right now: 6 points, 6 points, 5 points. M80, Heroic, and FaZe Clan. We'll see how the game finishes off on the other stream. But really excited to see how that one ends up closing out for the 2 teams. We'll see what the race for first in this group looks like. I still think it's very much in the hands of Dark Zero or FaZe or Heroic or M80. Probably tough for Team Secret right now, but it's still absolutely anybody's ball game inside of Group D.
I wonder what is happening on map 3 right now for Dark Zero versus Team Secret.
It was close last I checked.
It was real close when we walked in this studio. Well, let's go check it out. Come watch with us. Yay!